Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. It's Spathon with tonight's episode of The Swamp. Alex Pretti was the armed man who was killed by Border Patrol agents last week during their attempt to arrest him. The mainstream media has been blanketing the air with stories of Alex being the kindest man who wouldn't hurt a fly. Well, we now have bombshell footage showing Alex himself spitting at federal agents and busting a taillight out of a patrol vehicle, as well as Alex physically fighting with agents. And yesterday, Ilhan Omar was given a speech and was quote-unquote attacked by a man sitting in the center front row who stood up and squirted her with a syringe of an unknown substance, which turned out to be vinegar, and plenty of eyebrows are raised and eyes are rolling across the internet. And Nasra Ahmed, the Somali American woman in Minneapolis who claimed she was beat up by ICE and was served horrible food while in jail, was arrested today for assaulting federal agents. The band-aid she wore on her forehead during her speech is missing in her mugshot with no sign of any injury. Big surprise. And border czar Tom Homan has been in Minneapolis this week, and President Trump just announced that Mayor Jacob Frey has no intention on cooperating with federal immigration agents. Trump says Mayor Frey is playing with fire. And Secretary Marco Rubio testified at the Senate committee hearing today, which convened to go over the situation with Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. Also today, First Lady Melania Trump rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange while promoting her movie Melania, which will release in theaters globally on Friday. And Trump hosted an event today which centered around Trump Accounts, which is a program that will deposit $1,000 into an account for millions of newborn American children, which will mature into tens of thousands of dollars over the years, giving children a financial head start when they begin their adult lives. Also, a psychotic healthcare worker posted a series of TikTok videos encouraging women to date ICE agents, then inject them with a paralytic, and then dump poison on them. She has since been fired from her employer and might be facing federal charges. And there's plenty more that happened today. Crazy busy day today, so we're gonna dive straight in head first. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like if you get a second, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the daily updates. And I might read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And also, every article you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. But first, from yesterday's Swamp, there were a couple of comments that were left from Steel Fang 1. And they say, I donated to a victim that lost their home from Mayor Karen Bass's fiery regime, which she's the mayor of Los Angeles. They kept fighting against the dictatorship until they could no longer afford to. I wonder if I should sue Bass. And the exchange that they're speaking on is the Pacific Palisades fires that burned down last year. Of course, Los Angeles and also Governor Gavin Newsom, they've been dragging their feet like crazy. Only 2 houses have been built out of thousands. And apparently those 2 houses that were fully completed recently had their permits taken out to build the houses before even the fires even started. At least so I read. So anyway, let's see. I did reply with a comment. I won't go into detail reading it. It was kind of a long-winded comment. But yeah, if you want, you could check that out. Again, this is on yesterday's episode. And I said that there has to be a class action lawsuit with regard to the Palisades and how they're handling it. And there happens to be one. So this is from Google. It's Google AI, so you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt, but it seems legit. Yes, multiple lawsuits, including class action efforts, have been filed by the Pacific Palisades residents and homeowners against the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, and the state of California following the devastating fires in 2025. These lawsuits allege failures of epic proportions regarding fire management, emergency responses, infrastructure maintenance, and failure to use adequate firefighting resources. The key details regarding the lawsuits includes a $10 billion class action lawsuit, which is seeking damages for residents affected by the Palisades fire. Also, there's 3,300 plus victims. An amended complaint was filed on behalf of 3,300 victims alleging that state park representatives hindered firefighting efforts, which they probably did. Infrastructure negligence. Lawsuits allege that the city and Department of Water and Power failed to maintain water pressure, with reports that storage tanks went dry during the fire. Well, not only that, but the fire hydrants wouldn't work either. Wrongful death suits. More than a dozen lawsuits have been filed regarding deaths caused by the fires. And also the legal representation includes various law firms such as Quinn Emanuel and Singleton Schreiber, who are representing residents. And the residents affected by fire damage, smoke damage, or displacement can look for legal counsel or join existing in-progress lawsuits. So Steel Fang 1, there's definitely class action lawsuits in the works, and I imagine it wouldn't be difficult to jump into one of them if you want to look into that further. So anyway, thank you very much for your comment, and we're going to start right here with Right Angle News Network. Breaking. New video obtained by the BBC shows Alex Pretti armed, spitting on federal agents, and kicking out a taillight 1 week before the CBP incident that claimed his life. Let's check this out.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis, showing a man who appears to be Alex Pretti interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97%
and here we go.
Accuracy.
Start fighting with the cops.
On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15 a.m. We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked
and he
back
just
to their
spat
vehicles. On him. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight.
Oh, he's so calm, so innocent, never did anything wrong.
Grabbed him and pushed him to the ground.
And look, what's really appalling about all this is that the mainstream media, they came out and said that the only thing that he's got on his record was like a speeding ticket. He's never been arrested. He's never been in any trouble with the law ever in his life. He's just a perfectly innocent, peaceful protester. That's what they kept leading us to believe over the last week.
During the altercation, agents fired tear gas and pepper balls into the crowd. They continued to hold the man down before they retreat, and he walks away. The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Pretti was wearing on the day he was killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband. Here, he continues to stand at the scene. On the day he was killed, the Department of Homeland Security claims Pretti, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, approached officers holding a handgun. That claim has been contradicted by analysis of bystander videos from multiple news investigations.
Which, by the way, those news investigations are represented by news media outlets that weren't there. They have the exact same information as all the rest of us do.
Concluded that Pretti was holding a phone, not a gun, when he was pinned to the street.
Oh, they can conclude all they want. They can't substantiate that with definitively at all. Was it a phone? Probably. Maybe not. Maybe it was a magazine. Apparently, they found 2 magazines on him. Could have been a gun. You know, it's not out of the realm of impossibility for somebody to possess more than one firearm. In fact, it's probably more common than you think it is. And I mean, so was he not charged for this?
Shortly after the altercation we filmed here on January 13th, federal agents drove away. Soon after that,
he definitely should have been charged for that. You know, damaging federal property, spitting at agents. I mean, that's assault. You know, assaulting a federal agent can carry up to 20 years in prison, by the way. And I'm sure kicking the car, I'm sure that's a felony in and of itself. And by the way, I don't in any way condone or encourage any law enforcement to shoot anyone unless absolutely necessary. You know, I'm not praising what happened to him. In fact, I think it's horrible what happened to him. Was it absolutely unnecessary. I have no idea. I wasn't there. Look, federal agents, they've had, what was the number, like an 8,000% increase in threats and assaults against them. So they're already heightened. They're already in high gear with their adrenaline. Again, that doesn't excuse anything at all if the investigation ends up concluding that unnecessary force was used. And I've been pretty vocal over the 10 shots that they fired at him, and that's pretty excessive if you ask me, especially shooting from point blank range. So anyway, they're going to investigate it. Trump said he wants the investigation to happen, so that's going to happen. But I find that quite interesting that this video drops. And of course, it's widely circulating. This has 45,000 views. This is only one of many accounts. Right Angle News Network is one of dozens that have dropped this video out. So I'm sure combined, it's probably already been viewed millions of times. And I'm assuming it may have collectively came out within probably the last 3 or 4 hours. BBC getting a hold of it first. And I'm not saying that it completely overturns anything and everything. It just merely shows that Alex Pretti wasn't really the innocent golden child that they were making everybody out to believe. And he has been protesting in the past, and he got violent with agents in the past. He wasn't a non-violent, peaceful protester by any means. And was this the only altercation? Maybe this is like the 10th or 12th time that they've been involved with them. But still, at the end of the day, unless the force was deemed to be absolutely necessary, that just because he kicked out their taillight, obviously that doesn't give them a justifiable reason to use deadly force the next time they go in contact with them. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move on from there. Absolutely crazy that dropped today, though. So this is from Rep. Nancy Mace from 22 hours ago. So this happened last night. I am deeply disturbed to learn that Rep. Ilhan Omar was attacked at a town hall today. Regardless of how vehemently I disagree with her rhetoric, I do no elected official should face physical attacks. This is not who we are. And let's take a look at this video and see what happens.
Must resign or face impeachment.
Okay, so he took out a syringe and he squirted what we now know is vinegar, white distilled vinegar, I imagine. And look where he aims it. Like, look, if he's really someone who absolutely hates her, and I'm going to get conspiratorial here because everybody's getting conspiratorial about this, you would think he would have aimed at her face, right? Or maybe he did. Okay, I haven't watched this many times over. This is only my second time seeing it. So he aimed at her. He aimed at her chest. It looks like. Yeah, didn't even aim at her face. You think that he probably would have aimed at her face if he wanted to cause any kind of harm against her, And I mean, if he's spraying a quote-unquote unknown substance, because that's what the media kept calling it, then you think that he would be looking for, I don't know, like maximum damage in one way or another. I don't know. Anyway, it was all fast. It was all in the moment. But the big question is, was this orchestrated? Was it planned?
I don't know.
Was this another Jussie Smollett incident? Oh, shit. Sorry, that was really loud. All right, let's see that again. And notice where he was sitting. He was sitting right in the front row, right in the center, too. Almost too perfect, if you ask me, for him to just so happen to be in that spot. He wasn't in the second row back, not the third row back. I mean, his syringe could have hit her from that distance. I just find it kind of peculiar that he just happened to get the best seat in the house. He didn't look suspicious in any way. He wasn't like glaring at anybody. He didn't look like pissed off the entire time. You think he probably would have if he had some vendetta against Ilhan Omar. I don't know, man. In my opinion, it kind of stinks to high heavens, and I'm not alone on that opinion. So this is from Rep. Ilhan Omar herself. The office of Rep. Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, issued the following statement following the incident at her town hall in North Minneapolis. Quote, during her town hall, an agitator tried to attack the congresswoman by spraying an unknown substance with a syringe. Security in the Minneapolis Police Department quickly apprehended the individual. He is now in custody. The congresswoman is okay. She continued with her town hall because she doesn't let bullies win, which isn't typically protocol. I don't know if she has Secret Service. I don't think Secret Service protects members of the House. I don't think. I could be wrong on that. But I'm sure that the protocol with pretty much any security agency, and actually, whether if it's the CDC or any agency that would have any authority over unknown substances or hazardous materials, they would say that if you're sprayed with a liquid that you're not familiar with, you should immediately remove your clothing. Obviously, she's in public at this moment. She's not going to rip off her clothes, but they suggest to get to a place where you can remove your clothing as quickly as possible, wash with with water or what have you. There's a process to it, but certainly the process doesn't involve you just standing there soaked in this unknown liquid and just continue your speech for another 20 minutes, which is what she did. So anyway, in my opinion, and again, just my opinion, kind of has Jussie Smollett, like Juicy Smollett. It's got that kind of aroma in the air. And yeah, well, there you go. Chief MAGA showing an image of just Juicy Smollett, as Dave Chappelle likes to call him. All right, so I've got a few more on this. From Nick Sortor, Legacy Media is going to try to convince you that this guy was MAGA. Horseshit! And Stay Frosty, Patriots. This is an op. And I think it probably was. Why didn't he aim at her face? That's just my big thing. And for him to be sitting in the front row, in the center, I don't know, man, it kind of stinks to high heavens to me. From End Wokeness, odd, Ilhan Omar gave a quick glance at the guy right before he stood up. She did? I don't know. Let's take a look. Boom, right there. Well, that's a little peculiar, isn't it? Here, let me full screen that. Very, very strange, right? Okay. I mean, maybe she gave him the signal. Maybe it was just a pure coincidence. Okay, so Mila Joy, if Ilhan Omar getting sprayed was legit, why didn't she care what was sprayed on her? Why did she just go back to speaking? Everyone else in the world would be running out of there and ripping their clothes off, taking a shower, scrubbing. How did she know it wasn't harmful? Exactly. And isn't it common, well, as far as an attack against a woman in the Muslim community, if you're going to have a liquid thrown at you in the Muslim community, isn't the most common thing like hydrofluoric acid or some sort of like highly corrosive acid that causes like deep third-degree burns on the skin? You would think that if that was a legitimate attack, somebody who might be familiar with that had happening to other women, probably in her community in the past, you'd think that she would immediately just freak out, bolt for the door, make sure that it's safe and everything. Now, of course, vinegar has a very distinct smell, very strong smell. Not sure if there's any unknown substances out there that might smell like vinegar, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have mixed vinegar with something else. Now, I know vinegar, it's a strong base, or it's either an acid or a base. I think it's like a base or something like that. But I know like with some chemicals, you can neutralize certain chemicals with vinegar. I've seen Fight Club. I know what that's all about. But I don't know. I just think that's just kind of weird. Anyway, I'm pretty sure we already saw this. They're probably just going to go over it again, but we'll have a quick look. You notice how she went at him like she was going to do something?
I don't know.
Like, oh, nobody attacks me. It's like some Jerry Springer shit, man. That's just so fucking fake looking, man. It just looks so rigged, so weird, so fake.
No, we will continue. No. Ilhan, you need to go get checked. No, we will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it. You need to go get checked. No, you don't know what
Yeah, okay. It smells so bad. Dude, everybody knows what vinegar smells like. Give me a break.
Ilhan, it's not about him. It's about your safety. No, he sprayed something on you. You need to go get checked. Yeah.
She's not going to. She knows what it is. Obviously, they didn't tell everybody around her.
Keep talking. Just give me 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. I beg you.
I beg you? For real?
Please don't let them have the show.
Okay. All right. Maybe it was a legitimate attack. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'll read it tomorrow if you drop a comment. All right, so this is from Terrence K. Williams. Fake attack. Something about this doesn't add up. Do you agree? Yeah, I kind of agree. If someone randomly sprayed me with the substance, I'd be running to the nearest bathroom to wash my eyes and skin or straight to the hospital. Instead, Ilhan Omar acted like it was nothing and continued her speech. That's an unusual reaction for a sitting member of Congress after being sprayed by a crazy stranger. So let's take a quick look. Before I play this video, let's take a quick look and see what you're supposed to do. So what is recommended if you're sprayed with an unknown liquid by an unknown person? Immediate steps if sprayed with an unknown liquid by a stranger, possible assault or chemical exposure. Get away. Move to fresh air and a safe location quickly to avoid further exposure. Get it off and get clean. Remove contaminated clothing immediately and strip if soaked. Flush affected skin and eyes with large amounts of cool running water for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Longer is better. Don't delay. And if it gets in your eyes, hold your eyelids open and flush gently but thoroughly. Do not rub eyes or use other substances unless directed by experts. Get help. Call 911, especially if symptoms like burning, breathing difficulty, vision issues, nausea, dizziness appear, and or poison control right away. Tell them it's an unknown substance from intentional spraying. Seek medical evaluation if you feel okay. Some substances have delayed effects. This follows standard CDC poison control emergency guidelines for unknown chemical exposure. Act fast. Decontamination plus a professional assessment is key. So, yeah, that's why this is kind of sus to me for her to just say, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine. All right, whatever. So let's give this a play and see what he says.
This was staged. I don't care what nobody say. Watch.
Resign
Wait for it.
face impeachment.
Wait for it.
Lights, camera, action.
Acting like she's gonna fight him. Give me a break.
I don't know.
I don't know. Cause you set it up. You know what it was. It wasn't nothing.
I need a napkin to know nothing.
I need a napkin to know.
No, we will continue.
We will continue.
You need to go get checked. No, we will continue this.
So, you gonna continue.
By the way, they released the name of the man who did this, and I would be quite curious to find out if he ends up getting charged. They said he got arrested. I mean, that's the official narrative, was that he was arrested. He's in police custody. Is he going to quietly be let go without any charges? Is Minneapolis one of those cities where they can't arrest him unless the victim presses charges? I'm not familiar. In the state of Florida, the state takes over. So if somebody attacks you, and if there's any signs that you were attacked, any kind of physical injuries, then you don't have a choice. The state's going to press charges on your behalf. So I don't know if Minnesota's the same way or not.
So you're not going to run to the bathroom and wash it off. Somebody
If she doesn't press charges and they let the guy go, the whole thing was a fucking setup, man. It's all fake.
Something mysterious, and you just going to continue to talk?
No shit.
You got to be crazy. Y'all, this is staged. It was set up. I'm sorry. If somebody, I don't listen.
Especially in the Muslim community. Like, am I just imagining that or what?
If you randomly spray me with something, I'm running to the bathroom.
No
I'm
shit,
washing
man.
my eyes out. Okay, I'm calling the poison control center.
You know what? Matter of fact, when I made that remark saying that everybody knows what vinegar smells like, very distinct. If some person just jumps in front of you and sprays you with something, I mean, that would be shocking just immediately. And to get a whiff of vinegar, your brain probably wouldn't process that it's vinegar immediately. Your brain would probably, in the state of shock that you're in, would probably say, oh my God, this smells strong. That's got to be dangerous. Like, get your clothes off, get it off. That would just be my own gut reaction, just thinking about it. Not that this has ever happened to me.
I'm not just going to continue about my day like nothing happened.
Hell no.
Some random person sprayed me with something, some crazy person at that. Y'all, I might have been born, but I wasn't born yesterday. I wasn't born last night. I'm not boo-boo the foo-foo.
Wasn't even born this year.
Literally no one in this world would just allow some crazy person to spray something on to spray them with something, and then they don't wash their face, they don't wash off their skin, they just continue about their day like nothing happened.
And again, he was like 2 feet away from her. He was face to face. Why not spray her in the face? Why did he spray her like on the chest, or even most of which may have even hit below her chest? He could have easily aimed up at her face, but he didn't. That just makes me even more skeptical.
A normal person would have ran to the bathroom. Why didn't they take her to the hospital? She is a congresswoman. Why would they take her to the hospital? It could have been poisonous. Why? You know why they didn't take her? Because they knew what it was. It wasn't nothing but some damn water, some faucet water. That's all it was.
No, it was vinegar, actually, or at least that's what they're telling me.
If it was not set up or staged, they would have rushed her to the hospital. That is the right thing to do.
Because I did catch, there were a couple of people that said that it smelled horrible in the moment when we were watching the video early. Wherever I read it somewhere that it was vinegar. Actually, it might be in one. I got a couple, I've got this post, and then we're gonna move on to the next thing. So maybe it wasn't mentioned here, but I did read somewhere that it was vinegar. So who knows? Anyway, I mean, looking at that syringe, it looks off color, but it could have been apple cider vinegar. And it actually looks like it probably was apple cider vinegar. So anyway, U.S. Homeland Security News. It's a commentary account. That's not the actual U.S. Homeland Security account because it doesn't have the gray badge. It has a blue badge. Update, President Trump states Rep. Ilhan Omar probably had herself sprayed in a syringe attack. Hilarious. Okay, so I paused the video just for a second to ask Grok if there's any validity to Trump making that remark, and it looks like he did make that remark. It looks like we might have that here. This is on ABC News.
Omar speaking out against the federal immigration crackdown, saying she won't be intimidated. President Trump responding overnight, saying he has not seen the video of the incident, but calling Omar a fraud, telling ABC News she probably had herself sprayed.
Well, there you go.
Hours earlier, Trump
there you
suggested
go.
he would de-escalate.
President Trump did say that, according to ABC News, during a phone call. All right. So let's move on to End Wokeness. Breaking, Nasra Ahmed, bananas and rice, just arrested in Minneapolis for assaulting federal officers.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali.
And notice she's wearing this Band-Aid because she claims that she was assaulted by officers while she was being arrested. I don't know, peacefully protesting or whatever the hell that she claims she was arrested for. But notice in her mugshot, there's no injury there. There's nothing. Nice, smooth, free of any injuries.
To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American, but it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice. You know, people don't really see, like, you know, it's you know, people don't think, oh, you can eat bananas with rice, but that's what it's like to be Somali and American. It's like that combination of banana and rice, but you're gonna get what I mean.
What the hell is she talking about, dude? I mean, I can't stand bananas. I've always hated bananas. However, there's a lot of Americans who eat bananas. So what the hell is she talking about? So anyway, if you need a little bit of context into who she is, because I had to look it up, I did see something in passing over the last day or two somewhere I saw an image of her, and I didn't really dig into any detail, but I did come up with this. So Nasra Ahmed is a 23-year-old U.S. citizen of Somali descent from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, specifically in St. Paul. She gained public attention in January after alleging that ICE agents unlawfully detained her for 2 days, during which she claimed she was racially harassed, assaulted, and injured, including a concussion. Despite showing proof of U.S. citizenship, she went viral describing poor jail food, you can eat bananas and rice, and held a press conference about the incident. She was later arrested on January 28th, today, in Minneapolis, and charged with assaulting federal officers, reportedly in connection with interference during ICE operations or related unrest and riots in the area. So with her being arrested for assaulting a federal agent, she could be facing up to 20 years in prison. And I just can't get over that, man, how she faked this ridiculous injury. First off, I've had 2 concussions in my life. And if she's trying to claim that this Band-Aid injury was a concussion, yeah, I'm calling straight up bullshit on that. She would have had a goose egg on her forehead if that were the case. And of course, you know, they peel off the Band-Aid to give her mugshot, and nothing to be seen. Of course. What else is new? The left faking fake again. As always, fake news, fake leftists, fake injuries, all kinds of fake. All right, so moving on, we've got this from Rapid Response 47, Donald Trump, President Trump's True Social, and he says, surprisingly, Mayor Jacob Fry just stated that, quote, Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws, end quote. This is after having had a very good conversation with him. Could somebody in his inner sanctum please explain that this statement is a very serious violation of the law and that he is playing with fire? Uh-oh. Things are getting heated. Things are getting real heated, especially with Tom Homan being there. I mean, I'd like to hear that from Tom Homan also. Not that, I mean, I totally believe what President Trump's saying in this instance, because I'm sure it was Tom Homan who probably communicated that to him. I'd just be curious to hear Tom Homan's take on it too, to hear, like if he spoke to Mayor Jacob Fry in person, what was his demeanor? What did he directly tell you that, or was that one of his lackeys that told you on his behalf, or like what are the details? Okay, so we got this from the New York Stock Exchange. New York Stock Exchange welcomes Melania Trump, First Lady of the United States, to celebrate Amazon MGM Studios' launch of her new film Melania, opening in theaters globally this Friday, January the 30th. Oh, it's very quiet. Very, very quiet. We're not going to get our eardrums blown out, are we? I'm kind of worried about turning it up anymore. Oh, see, that's what I get for trying to skip ahead. Okay, so there's true. I'm trying to get to the... All right, here we go. Come on, man. Ring the bell already. Did she already ring it? I probably skipped it, didn't I? I think I did. Yeah, I did. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, anyway. I don't know if I'm going to see it. I don't watch anything on any subscribed platforms, Amazon, Netflix. I don't participate in any of that. So I don't know. I'll have to see what the ratings are, what the reviews are, if it's worth seeing. Maybe if they're showing it at my theater, which they do tend to show, whether if it's a blockbuster movie or if it's an obscure film that only hit a few hundred theaters. My local theater tends to play the more obscure ones as well. Not to say that this is an obscure film or anything like that. I'm just saying, if it's hitting all the theaters, it'll be there. If it's only hitting a few, it'll probably still be in my theater. My theater is awesome, man. They also show UFC fights. They show all kinds of stuff out there. It's actually pretty nice, and they serve dinner. It's pretty cool, man. All right, so the White House. I believe that Trump accounts will be remembered as one of the most transformative policy innovations of all time. President Donald J. Trump. We're going to give every newborn American child a fair shot at the American dream. This happened
for the first time ever. We're going to give every newborn American child
I'm sorry.
a financial stake
Holy
in the
shit.
future, head start at life, and a fair shot at the American dream. Something people don't talk about so much, at least not for the last 4 years. They haven't been, but now they're talking about it big. This last period of time, it's been unbelievable. We're going to put $3 to $4 trillion of wealth into the hands of young Americans who otherwise would have really started out with nothing. It's really an amazing thing because it gives young children that start out with really nothing, and we gives them, boy, it's more money than anybody could imagine. From their standpoint, they'll have a real start in life, and that's why decades from now, I believe the Trump accounts will be remembered as one of the most transformative policy innovations of all time.
Look, I haven't looked into the Trump accounts in too much detail. I've definitely heard of it. I've shown it on the Swamp a number of times when he first announced it. Also, the CEO of Dell, he's the guy that put most of the money behind it. He donated like $4 or $5 billion into this fund. So I don't know if there's a financial cutoff or if it's any child that's born who participates in the program, or if the parents earn over a certain threshold of an income, if they don't qualify. I don't think that's the case. I think it's any child that's born. And so far, the funds, at least last that I heard, at the time that Mr. Dell, whoever, whatever his name is, at the time that he made the donation, and there's a group of other people who also contributed. At that time, it was it was enough money to fund something like 30 million kids with $1,000 each. So, and that was at least a month or two ago. So I'm sure that the funds are probably substantial at this point. And we have another surprise individual who also donated, and she is in attendance here, and we'll get to her here in just a minute. So let's watch this one.
To celebrate
Another
a
part.
thrilling new milestone for America, the first generation of Trump account children. Trump account children. For the first time
TrumpAccounts.gov.
ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future.
There you go. Every newborn child.
Head-started life and a fair shot at the American dream, something people don't talk about so much, at least not for the last 4 years they haven't been, but now they're talking about it big. This last period of time, it's been unbelievable. When you see what's going on with our economy, the tremendous investments that's been made in our country. We have over $18 trillion coming in.
Well, to be fair, the middle class is struggling a lot right now.
10 years ago, another country, not even
The
our
silent
country.
recession.
We have $18 trillion, and we have thousands of businesses being built all over the country, and hundreds of
Yeah, to be fair,
massive
that is
plants,
happening.
So big, car plants, AI plants.
Yeah, it's definitely a fractured economy that we're sitting in right now, with tons of manufacturing coming back. $18 trillion is being invested into the United States for manufacturing production. Tons of jobs are going to be available in the next couple of years, especially in manufacturing, AI infrastructure. So there's a lot of that's happening on one side, but on the other side, we're still dealing with the fallout of inflation throughout the Biden administration. Things didn't come back down to where prices were in 2019. I don't think they ever will. But our wages haven't really moved all that much. Most of us have seen our wages barely move. So everything has gone up, 15, 20, 30% in cost, but we're making roughly the same amount of money that we were in 2019. So a lot of us are really struggling. And a lot of people maxed out on their credit cards, which that's at an all-time record high. The cost of, or the car debt is at an all-time high. Mortgage debt, I think, is at an all-time high. Like what the average mortgage that you get today, it's something like $2,700, which is absurd, man. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, so I got one more from President Trump, so we'll take a look at this. And I've also got some numbers. If you're wondering about the whole $1,000 that they start out with, like what does that mean for the long term? How much does that mature into? We'll get to that here in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at this.
Crazy when she heard that this was happening. I want to go. You know, she happens to be in the wrong state right now for that. But when she heard that there's a certain person that's here who's the greatest and most successful female rapper in history, Nicki Minaj. Come on. And, you know, and Nicki makes a lot of cash. Not as much as Michael Dell. Not quite.
Michael Dell, that's his name.
But that's okay.
He's the biggest contributor.
Nicki makes a lot of money, and she's generously stepping up. She's investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in Trump accounts to support the children and
nice.
Really the children of her incredible fans. That's great. Focus on that. Why should you give to somebody else's fans? Give to your fans.
Well, yeah, why not?
But and I just think she's great. You know, I've been hearing so much over the years because I didn't know Nicki, and I've been hearing over the years she's a big Trump supporter and a Trump fan, and she took a little heat on occasion. Her community
I'm sure she did.
I tell you, we did pretty damn well with that, with your community.
Yeah, Hollywood likes to blacklist you for that.
But Nicki has been an unbelievable supporter. She gets almost as much as Mr. Wonderful over here. He's been another one that's been so good. But
oh yeah, Mr. Wonderful. What's his name from Shark Tank? And Mr. Wonderful, he's Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary, he's the dude on Shark Tank. Yeah, apparently he's a Trump supporter. I think I already knew that though. But so as far as blacklisting from Hollywood, like Vince Vaughn, he's an actor that was really popular in the 2000s, made a whole bunch of comedies. I've always liked Vince Vaughn. And I didn't even know he was a Trump supporter till like 2018, somewhere around there, where he was spotted sitting with Trump during a basketball game. The first movie I saw him in was that movie with Jennifer Lopez, The Cell. I've always loved that movie, but I saw it when I was a kid, so it kind of stuck with me. But also Tim Allen. Tim Allen is another one. James Woods, that's another one. I follow him over on X, but he's getting old, so he's probably already retired from Hollywood at this point. So anyway, this is Nicki Minaj from Nicki Minaj's profile over on X. She's got a ton of followers over here, 25.6 million. I can only imagine her Instagram profile is probably like in the hundreds of millions probably, but I've never been on Instagram. So there's that image. And she also shared this from the New York Post. Exclusive, Nicki Minaj pledges cash to support Trump accounts for Barb's babies. So she's starting her own sector of the Trump accounts, and this is on New York Post. And it reads as follows. Rap superstar Nicki Minaj is pledging hundreds of thousands of dollars to help fund new $1,000 tax advantage investment accounts for her fans' newborns as part of a program the Trump administration is launching this year. Minaj will join President Trump, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and others for a Trump account summit on Wednesday, touting the program's tax-deferred retirement accounts for children. The super bass hitmakers' contributions could mean investments between $150,000 and $300,000 to our fans to help set up baby Barb's accounts, though the final number is in flux, sources said. She's expected to make the announcement alongside Trump advisor Alex Brusewitz, who's developed a close relationship with Minaj as the administration's celebrity whisperer. I absolutely love my Barbs, Minaj, 43, told the Post in a statement referencing her fan base. I want to see them bring healthy and successful children into the world. Becoming a mother was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, and I want others to experience the same joy my son has brought into my life. And I can absolutely second that. Being a parent is the greatest thing that could ever happen. I know raising a child that can be expensive and challenging at times, so I'm committed to doing whatever I can to support them, added Minaj, who has a son aged 5. So there you have it. And let's go back. I think I got one more image. Welp from Nicki Minaj's profile again, showing the Trump gold card, which I don't know if that's hers to keep or what, but she's got the Trump gold card. And from the GOP, MAGA Minaj. So they showed an image of Nicki Minaj. So, all right. Anyway, let's get into the numbers a little bit. So the Trump accounts represent a generational opportunity for American families. With a $1,000 federal deposit, every child can gain a real stake in our nation's future. Thanks to the hard work of the president and the House GOP, more children have the promise of the American dream. And that is from Rep. Dale Strong, posted earlier today. So if you start out with a $1,000 contribution, by the time the child is 18, that will grow to $5,800. That's if you just let the $1,000 just sit there. And by the age of 27, the investment will grow to $17,000. And if you leave it to grow until the age of 55, it'll be $200,000 by the time you're 55. And if you contribute $5,000 per year to the account, I'm assuming from what? Maybe the age of birth up till the age of 55. By 55, it'll grow to $2.7 million. So big number, man. Even though I can sort of imagine that perhaps 55 years from now, $2.7 million probably wouldn't be able to buy you a whole lot, but I'm sure it'll still be able to get you something that far into the future. Congressman Troy E. Nels says House GOP and the president are making the American dream more achievable for our children with the creation of Trump accounts. We are jumpstarting the American dream for the next generation. This is an image from Fox. If maximum contributions are made, then you can earn, or you can have it build up to $303,800 by the age of 18. And by the age of 28, it can balloon up to over $1 million. If there's no contributions at all, by the age of 18, it will grow to $5,800. And by the age of 28, it'll be $18,100. So yeah, it does look like if you don't make any contributions at all, by the time you're 55, what was the number? Or 200,000? Yeah. So by the age of 55, it could be up to $200,000. And that is quite amazing. So when the child can access that money, maybe when they turn 18, they could be given access to it. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't read into the details. Maybe they can't touch it till they're 55. I think that would be a great idea if they're not able to tap into it till they're 55, because that would be one hell of a good retirement nest egg, assuming that inflation doesn't just wipe out our economy into freaking oblivion. All right, so let's move on to the Secretary Marco Rubio hearing that happened today in the Senate from Gunther Eagleman. LOL, Secretary Marco Rubio just got swarmed by the press pack after landing for his massive Venezuela testimony. Marco says, how many pictures do you guys want? I never had cameras this close to my face. Future VP? Oh, I don't know, maybe. Maybe a future president, who knows? Oh, the sound is super quiet. Am I going to have to boost this sound? I think I'm going to have to boost the sound.
Thanks so much, Senator. Thanks, Senator. Thank you, Senator.
All right, keep smiling. That's too close. Sorry. All right, okay. Oh, God, these close-ups. The last time someone did these close-ups, I looked terrible. Did you see that on that magazine? No, you always look good. All right. See you in a minute. How many pictures do you guys want?
Good grief, man. Look at him. Freaking vultures, dude.
Like this is your first day on the hill, sir.
Got a million cameras all over him. What the hell?
I got to count to 3. 1.
Because the rage bait media, they expect them to get eviscerated, probably. That's probably why they're just trying to get as many pictures as humanly possible of him. All right, so I'm resetting something in the background because I had to boost that sound. Let me move this over here. Okay, all right, I'm good. Let's move to the next one. Eric Daugherty breaking a leftist rioter just got swiftly removed from Marco Rubio's testimony, and Marco's response was perfect. The protester going berserk. Marco, there's going to be a couple more protesters, so he knows the drill. Greatest Secretary of State ever. So I put this at the beginning because I didn't know when during the testimony that this took place. Not to say that I have these clips in order. They're most likely not going to be in order. I just grabbed them as I found them. I don't believe that I got any duplicates, though. I was trying to refrain from getting duplicates, but I've got a lot of these, man. There's a bunch, but don't freak out. They're all like 33 seconds here, a minute there, a minute. So they're not very long, but there's quite a lot, man. It was a banger of a hearing today. So obviously I don't have enough time to play the entire thing. I think the whole hearing was like 3, maybe 4 hours long. So I decided to just go over to the State Department's profile or their account, Department of State, and they posted a whole bunch of highlights. So I just grabbed the highlights. Figured that'd probably be the easiest way to go about it. So let's take a look at this.
Suspend. You know the drill. Off to jail.
That's a war crime.
That's a 1-year ban from the committee.
Anyone
who is a persistent violator will be banned for 3 years. So don't know if the guy falls in that category. Looks like it. I hope
he's got banned for a year. What an asshole.
Secretary Rubio, we have 2 hearings a week. You know, you seem to have a more robust following than most of our witnesses that come before us. But anyway.
There'll be a couple more, so thank you for stopping the clock.
But yeah, you know, it's a love-hate relationship.
I appreciate it. So, and I know there's
Wasn't Marco Rubio the only member of Trump's cabinet that was unanimously voted by the Senate? I think every Democrat, I think, also voted for him. I could be wrong. It might not be Marco Rubio, but I'm pretty sure I got that right. All right, so House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. Maduro had an active $50 million bounty from law enforcement. Maduro's bounty was increased by both President Trump and Biden. Maduro remained in power despite the bounties. Maduro continued to support drug traffickers. Absolute Resolve was a law enforcement operation with military support. The operation detained Maduro and his wife. No service members or law enforcement were killed in the operation. The operation was met with broad support across Latin America. And also, America and Venezuela are better off with Maduro in custody. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can start getting into these highlights.
For years, the United States...
Holy shit, I'm sorry.
Maduro, correct?
Have what, I'm sorry?
A standing bounty on Nicholas Maduro.
Oh, yes.
Shouldn't have boosted the volume.
And
good grief.
This bounty was increased by both the Biden and Trump administrations, correct?
Correct.
And despite that bounty, did Maduro remain in power?
Yes.
Did he continue to support drug traffickers?
Oh, yes.
Was Operation Absolute Resolve a law enforcement operation supported by the military?
It was.
Did that operation successfully remove Maduro and his wife, and they were taken into custody?
Yes. Great questions.
Thanks. Were any service members, law enforcement officers killed in that operation?
No. Not any of ours.
None of ours, right?
Yeah, a lot of Cuban officers, though.
Broad support across Latin America for Maduro's removal?
Yes.
And is the United States better off with Nicolas Maduro in custody?
Yes, and Venezuela too.
Right. I realize that you'll hear differing views during this hearing, but I want to at least offer my personal congratulations to you and everybody who helped carry this out, because the world is better off without Nicolas Maduro.
Oh, hell yeah, it's better off. It's way better off. Got this one. Rapid Response 47, Secretary Rubio outlines on Venezuela. We had in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco-trafficker that became the base of operations for virtually every competitor, adversary, enemy in the world.
Let me just talk about Venezuela in particular.
I believe this is his opening statement.
I think we can talk, if you want. I'm sure your questions will be about what happened before and led up to in the operation. I want to focus my comments this morning on what happens now moving forward, because you're going to ask about the going back. And let me just say this. What is our goal going in? We had in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco-trafficker that became a base of operation for virtually every competitor, adversary, and enemy in the world. It was, for Iran, their primary spot of operation in the Western Hemisphere was Venezuela. For Russia, their primary base of operation in the Western Hemisphere, along Cuba and Nicaragua, was Venezuela. In the case of China, China was receiving oil at a huge, about $20 a barrel discount.
What?
And they weren't even paying
they were.
money for it. It was being used to pay down debt that they were owed. This is the oil of the people of Venezuela, and it was being given to the Chinese as barter at a 20%.
Did you know that?
A $20
I didn't know
discount per barrel in some cases. And so you had basically 3 of our primary opponents in the world operating from our hemisphere from that spot. It was also a place where you had a narco-trafficking regime that openly cooperated with the FARC and the ELN and other drug trafficking organizations.
So in other words, this should have happened years ago. This should have happened, like, what did he ascend to power, like 2018? And then the next election, the most recent one happened in 2024, which was definitely illegitimate, that he lost 70-30.
Using their national territory. It was an enormous strategic risk for the United States, not halfway around the world, not in another continent, but in the hemisphere in which we all live. And it was having dramatic impacts on us, but also on Colombia and on the Caribbean basin and all sorts of other places. It was an untenable situation, and it had to be addressed. And it was addressed. And now the question becomes what happens moving forward. As I've described to you in previous settings and in individual conversations, we had 3 objectives here. The final, I'll work it backwards, because the end state here is we want to reach a phase of transition where we are left with a friendly, stable, prosperous Venezuela, and democratic, in which all elements of society are represented in free and fair elections. By the way, you can have elections. You can have elections all day. But if the opposition has no access to the media, if opposition candidates are routinely dismissed and unable to be on the ballot because the government, those aren't free and fair elections. That's the end state that we want. Free, fair, prosperous, and friendly Venezuela. We're not going to get there in 3 weeks. It's going to take some time. And so objective number 1 was stability. In the aftermath of the removal of Maduro, the concern was what happens in Venezuela. Is there civil war? Do the different factions start going at each other? Are 1 million people crossing the border into Colombia? All of that has been avoided. And one of the primary ways that it has been avoided is the ability to establish direct, honest, respectful, but very direct and honest conversations with the people who today control the elements of that nation, meaning the law enforcement, the government apparatus, et cetera. And one of the tools that's available to us is the fact that we have sanctions on oil. There is oil that is sanctioned that cannot move from Venezuela because of our quarantine. And so what we did is we entered into an arrangement with them. And the arrangement is this. On the oil that is sanctioned and quarantined, we will allow you to move it to market. We will allow you to move it to market at market prices, not at the discount China was getting. In return, the funds from that will be deposited into an account that we will have oversight over. And you will spend that money for the benefit of the Venezuelan people. Why was that important? Venezuela was running out of storage capacity. Okay? They were producing oil, they were drilling oil, they had nowhere to put it. They had nowhere to move it, and they were facing a fiscal crunch. They needed money in the immediacy to fund the police officer, the sanitation workers, the daily operations of government. And so we've been able to create a short-term mechanism. This is not going to be the permanent mechanism, but this is a short-term mechanism in which the needs of the Venezuelan people can be met through a process that we've created where they will submit every month a budget of this is what we need funded. We will provide for them at the front end what that money cannot be used for. And they've been very cooperative in this regard. In fact, they have pledged to use a substantial amount of those funds to purchase medicine and equipment directly from the United States. As in fact, one of the things they need is dilutin, or dilutin, depending how you want to pronounce it. And that basically is the light crude that you need to mix with their heavy crude in order for the oil to be able to be mixed and moved. They used to get 100% of that from Russia. They are now getting 100% of that from the United States. So we're using that short-term mechanism both to stabilize the country, but also to make sure that the oil proceeds that are currently being generated through the licenses we'll now begin to issue on this sanctioned oil goes to the benefit of the Venezuelan people, not to fund the system that existed in the past. The second is a period of recovery. And that is the phase in which you want to see a normalized oil industry. Again, look, we've got plenty of oil. There's plenty of oil all over the world. Canada produces heavy crude, so it's not like Venezuela's oil is unique in that regard, despite the fact they have the largest known reserves in the world. It's not
crazy.
irreplaceable. But we understand that that is the lifeline. Their natural resources are going to allow Venezuela to be stable and prosperous moving forward.
Oh, dude, they could easily, just based on that, dude, they have more oil than Saudi freaking Arabia, for crying out loud. And Saudi Arabia's got tons of money. So yeah, there is no question that Venezuela has enough crude oil to become, once again, the richest country in South America.
So we've created, what we hope to do is transition to a mechanism that allows that to be sold in a normal way, a normal oil industry, not one dominated by cronies, not one dominated by graft and corruption. To that end, the authorities there deserve some credit. They have passed a new hydrocarbon law that basically eradicates many of the Chavez-era restrictions on private investment in the oil industry. It probably doesn't go far enough to attract sufficient investment, but it's a big step from where they were 3 weeks ago. So that's a major change. We can address some of the other components, but I'll run out of time. But one of the parts of the transition phase, or the recovery phase, is beginning to create space for different voices inside of Venezuelan politics to have an ability to speak out. Part of that is the release of political prisoners. By some estimates, up to 2,000. They are releasing them. They are releasing them probably slower than I would like them to, but they are releasing them. And in fact, you're starting to see some of the people being released beginning to speak out and participate in political life in the country. We have a long ways to go. Look, we can talk in more detail about all of these things. Suffice it to say, I'm not here to claim to you this is going to be easy or simple. I am saying that in 3.5, almost 4 weeks, we are much further along on this project than we thought we would be, given the complexities of it going into it. And I recognize that it won't be easy. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we are dealing with people over there that have spent most of their lives living in a gangster paradise. So it's not going to be like from one day to the next.
Paradise.
We're going to have this thing turn around overnight. But I think we're making good and decent progress. It is the best plan, and we are certainly better off today in Venezuela than we were 4 weeks ago. And I think and hope and expect that we'll be better off in 3 months, and 6 months, and 9 months than we would have been had Maduro still been there.
Well, in the regime in Venezuela, the Nicolas Maduro regime has been overthrown. Will the Castros in Cuba be next? I mean, probably not, but it would be nice to have a free Cuba, because I live just a stone's throw away from Cuba, and I would love to go vacation down there in the future, although that doesn't really look likely, but you never know. I mean, maybe in Venezuela in a few years, I could see myself there. Actually, I would love to go to Venezuela to go visit Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, where the Catatumbo lightning happens, which is, it's the most active lightning region in the Western Hemisphere, because there's like mountains to the south of the lake, and it holds the clouds back and moisture, and it just kind of all just sits over the lake, and there's like swamplands that are at the base of those mountains, and it all just comes together to produce these massive thunderstorms that blow up on a daily basis during the season. Because I've been a weather fanatic since I was a little kid. I live in Tampa Bay, which is just by total coincidence just happens to be the lightning capital of America. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that'd be a dream come true to get to go see the Catatumbo lightning down in Venezuela. All right, so we have this next one. I'm not going to read all of the text from all of them because, what's the point? They're primarily just quotes that we're just going to hear in the video clips anyway, so we'll just move it along.
Ships and these assets were deployed in the Indo-Pacific or in the Mediterranean or in the Middle East somewhere, no one would blink an eye. They say, well, that's normal. That's what we always do. The fact that they were deployed in the Western Hemisphere was a shock to everybody because we haven't done it. In fact, according to Southcom, they've rarely have ever had assets permanently deployed to them. They may have been transiting through at some point, but not permanently deployed, to deal with a very acute matter. And that is, and these are, these things become interrelated here at some point, but they are separate in many ways. And it's part of what I was trying to explain to Senator Duckworth. We have a real reality in our region of these transnational criminal terrorist organizations that in many cases possess weapons that you ascribe to a nation state, not to a gang, who pose a grave threat to the national security of the United States, but also to the stability of the region. If you walk through the region, what is the primary threat in Colombia? Transnational criminal organizations. What is the threat to Mexico? What is the threat to the Caribbean basin? These groups have to be confronted. They have to be confronted forcefully.
They got to be wiped out.
What's the threat in Haiti? To systemic collapse. And that is these criminal gangs that basically control territory and threaten the ability to even form a government there in that regard. So it's endemic throughout the region, and it ultimately impacts the United States through mass migration, through drug trafficking, and other.
Well, and look, a lot of people say, well, why does America have to be the world's police and having to take care of all of that? Well, it's in our backyard. I think especially it'd be important for us, it'd be advantageous for us to do so, because just like he explained with Venezuela, they had China down there, they had Russia down there, Iran was down there and making deals with Venezuela, pumping out their oil. And look, if if China had unlimited access to Venezuelan oil, that would be a major problem for the United States economically, because China's not exactly the richest country in the world when it comes to resources. In fact, I think there's quite a lot of resources that they do lack. And obviously that would be very problematic. So when it comes to things like that, it would be kind of a good idea for us to at least do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen. With Haiti, they're probably not very resource rich. However, it's in the Caribbean, man. It's in our backyard. And plus, if they don't have any resources on the ground, they would at least utilize drug trafficking would probably be a big thing that they would probably be engaged in. They probably are engaged in, as well as other illicit activities that would probably involve, transiting across the Caribbean into America in one way or another.
Related criminal organizations. And so we need to have a force posture that can confront that and that can provide assistance in conjunction with other partners. We also need more countries that are willing to cooperate with us and collaboratively work on these things, the way Ecuador is now doing, the way El Salvador has done, the way Trinidad and Jamaica and other countries, the way we historically have done with Colombia, by the way, and continue to do in many respects. So we hope Venezuela will be one of those. Imagine if a future, or even the current interim authorities, or a future.
Okay, well, you know what? Come to think of it, maybe I should read at least some of the description, so that way at least we can get some context of the verbal exchange that they're going to be talking about. So and I think the rest of these are going to be from the Department of State. So Secretary Rubio on Cuba, regime change. Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime change there. There's no doubt about the fact that it would be of great benefit to the United States if Cuba was no longer governed by an autocratic regime. So it's a very brief one. I think that's literally every word that's going to be said in this video, so it's almost pointless to hear it, but I'm going to play it anyway.
Will you make a public commitment today to rule out U.S. regime change in Cuba?
Regime change?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime there change.
Hell yeah.
We would like to. That doesn't mean that we're going to make it change, but we would love to see it change. There's no doubt about the fact that it would be of great benefit to the United States if Cuba was no longer governed by an autocratic regime.
Oh, dude, that'd be fantastic, man. That would be amazing. Get to smoke Cuban cigars, get to go travel down there, just enjoy the sun, the swaying palm trees, the mountains. Cuba's a pretty big-ass freaking country. I think from one side to the other, it's almost 1,000 miles from end to end. It's a lot bigger than it might look. Actually, it does kind of look pretty big on a map, though. All right, so Department of State Secretary Rubio on the presence of the United States in Iran.
Their system is divided between the Supreme Leader and the IRGC that responds directly to him. And then you've got these quasi-elected individuals, the ones that wear the suits on television who are part of their political branches, but ultimately have to run everything they do by the Supreme Leader. So I don't think anyone can give you a simple answer as to what happens next in Iran if the Supreme Leader and the regime were to fall, other than the hope that there would be some ability to have somebody within their systems that you could work towards a similar transition. I would imagine it would be even far more complex than the one we're describing now, because you're talking about a regime that's in place for a very long time. So that's going to require a lot of careful thinking if that eventuality ever presents itself. On the issue of our presence in the region, here's the baseline I want to set for everybody. The baseline is this. We have 30 to 40,000 American troops stationed across 8 or 9 facilities in that region. All are within the reach. Theoretically, not theoretically, in reality, all are within the reach of an array of thousands of Iranian one-way UAVs and Iranian short-term ballistic missiles, short-range ballistic missiles that threaten our troop presence. We have to have enough force and power in the region, just on a baseline, to defend against that possibility.
Well, and the military, they've been showcasing a weapon. It's a direct, one of those direct concentrated microwave weapons where they can point it at a location where there's drones coming in case they do send off dozens or hundreds of drones to swarm American troops. They can point this weapon. I believe they carry it on the top of like a Humvee or a truck or whatever, and all they have to do is just point it and just turn it on. And it drops every single drone that it's pointed at out of the sky, and it'll drop dozens of them all at once. And it's like the direction, it's like in a cone-shaped type direction. So it's not like a laser beam where it has to point directly at it. They just point it in a general direction where there's drones, and all of them get knocked out of the sky. So I'm sure that we've got that weaponry out there. God knows what we really have in the military. I mean, our military is straight out of the future. It's crazy,
point,
man.
As a result of something, the Iranian regime decides to strike at our troop presence in the region. The president always reserves the preemptive defensive option. In essence, if we have indications that, in fact, they're going to attack our troops in the region, to defend our personnel in the region. We also have security agreements, the Defense of Israel Plan and others, that require us to have a force posture in the region to defend against that. And so I think it's wise and prudent to have a force posture within the region that could respond and potentially, not necessarily what's going to happen, but if necessary, preemptively prevent the attack against thousands of American servicemen and other facilities in the region and our allies.
Well, yeah, man, one could certainly hope so. I mean, hopefully it doesn't get that hairy. All right, from the Department of State, I don't know why I keep saying that. These are all going to be from the Department of State. It's just a habit. So travel advisories are us imagining worst case scenarios. We have a duty to warn American citizens when they travel to a place that does have a history of Americans being arrested. That's Cory Booker.
Are us imagining worst case scenarios. We have a duty to warn American citizens when they travel to a place that does have a history of Americans being arrested.
Why does he always look
Americans
confused?
Being taken. And they may be taken by a deliberate action of a government or entity related to the regime. They may be taken by criminal gangs that control parts of that society. For example, you know, they have these colectivos, as they're called, which basically are these armed motorcycle gangs that are allowed to act with impunity in return for their support for the Maduro regime in the past. You have the ELN and the FARC and other drug trafficking organizations, including Tren de Aragua, that are involved.
Again.
So these are real risks that we have a duty to warn Americans, because here's what we did not see. And I mean, don't mean
Why would he push back against that?
We have this announcement that Maduro's been taken. All of a sudden, people conclude, oh, he's gone. Let's flood over there. Let's all go over there.
You know, it definitely helps that Marco Rubio was a senator for many years, because I would assume if it was most other people sitting in the hot seat, whether if it's Pamela Bondi or whoever it might be, Kash Patel, Cory Booker would probably be constantly trying to interrupt him. But I'm sure that that they've got a mutual respect of each other, because again, Marco Rubio was in the Senate for a long time. So, I mean, at least he let him get that out. At least let him explain himself, because Cory Booker definitely had that look on his face. Like I really want to just cut in and just give him everything that I got. But, you know, it was kind of nice that at least he let him speak, for crying out loud. So we had in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco trafficker that became a base of operation for virtually every competitor, adversary, and enemy in the world. It was an untenable situation, and it had to be addressed, and it was addressed.
And we had in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco trafficker that became a base of operation for virtually every competitor, adversary, and enemy in the world. It was, for Iran, their primary spot of operation in the Western Hemisphere was Venezuela. For Russia, their primary base of operation in the Western Hemisphere, along Cuba and Nicaragua, was Venezuela. In the case of China, China was receiving oil at a huge, about $20 a barrel discount. And they weren't even paying money for it. It was being used to pay down debt that they were owed. This is the oil of the people.
Okay, so we did hear this. Was this during his opening statement?
Chinese as barter at a 20%, at a $20 discount per barrel in some cases. And so you had basically three of our primary opponents in the world operating from our hemisphere from that spot. It was also a place where you had a narco-trafficking regime that openly cooperated with the FARC and the ELN and other drug trafficking organizations using their national territory. It was an enormous strategic risk for the United States, not halfway around the world, not in another continent, but in the hemisphere in which we all live. And it was having dramatic impacts on us, but also on Colombia and on the Caribbean basin and all sorts of other places. It was an untenable situation, and it had to be addressed. And it was addressed.
Okay, it sounds like that we already heard that. I didn't want to just stop and move on, because in these committee hearings, often the same questions asked by different people, and they answer it a similar way with regard to that $20 discount. That stood out. So anyway, the end state here is we want to reach a phase of transition where we are left with a friendly, stable, prosperous Venezuela.
The end state here is we want to reach a phase of transition where we are left with a friendly, stable, prosperous Venezuela, and democratic, in which all elements of society are represented in free and fair elections. By the way, you can have elections. You can have elections all day. But if the opposition has no access to the media, if opposition candidates are routinely dismissed and unable to be on the ballot because the government, those aren't free and fair elections.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what Democrats want to have happen to Republicans.
That's the end state that we want. Free, fair, prosperous, and friendly Venezuela.
You know, the mainstream media heavily biased against Republicans, you know, with the propaganda. I don't even have to go into detail about that. We all know that's the case. All right, so the reason why you need such a strong U.S. backstop is because our allies and our partners have not invested enough in their own defense capabilities over the last 20, 30 years. NATO is going to be stronger if our allies are more capable.
I'm not diminishing the fact that some countries in Europe are willing to place troops in a post-war Ukraine. What I'm pointing out is that is irrelevant without the U.S. backstop. And the reason why you need such a strong U.S. backstop is because our allies and our partners have not invested enough in their own defense capabilities over the last 20 or 30 years. Now, hopefully that's going to change. Hopefully that is changing. And in some cases and in some particular countries, it's already changed. But this is a fact that we cannot ignore. NATO is going to be stronger if our allies are more capable, especially, and here's the reality, whether we want to accept it or not, we have interests all over the world. We have interests in the Middle East, we have interests in the Western Hemisphere, and we most certainly have interests in the Indo-Pacific. A number of you have already pointed out that China is the chief challenge. We can't have the same soldiers or the same ships in both Europe and in the Indo-Pacific. We have to pick. No matter how many ships we build, no matter how many capabilities we grow, we're going to have to make these adjustments. And the stronger our partners are in NATO, the more flexibility the United States will have to secure our interests in different parts of the world.
Okay. Yeah, and there is no doubt in my mind that if America closes itself up and backs off of everything, no longer holds an interest in anything whatsoever, I bet World War III would just absolutely just blow up probably within a couple of months. I mean, I would have no doubt. And maybe not necessarily countries going after us specifically, although I'm sure they would. Probably be reminiscent to World War II in some ways. I would just assume that maybe Russia and China, they would just be trying to power grab and hold influence over large regions of the world, and they would probably compete against each other and probably would fire off a whole damn world war. Anyway, so it's not just leverage, it's also their national interest. The truth of the matter is that the United States will be a far better partner for a future Venezuelan government that's free and democratic, and even for the current authorities, than some of the partners they're signed up with now.
Yes, there's leverage, and I wouldn't just say oil. I think anything that's sanctioned in Venezuela, will, in order for them to normalize it, will require cooperation with the United States. But it's not just leverage, it's also their national interest. It's an alignment of their interest. The truth of the matter is that the United States will be a far better partner for a future Venezuelan government that's free and democratic, and even for the current authorities, than some of the partners they've signed up with now. Frankly, we think it's not in Venezuela's interest to have an Iranian presence or the sale of Iranian weaponry or anything like that into their country. So I think there's alignment there. We think and can argue that some of these criminal elements, which they've allowed to act with impunity in parts of their country, is a deal with the devil. In the short term, it provided revenues to some corrupt regime officials, but in the long term has created real destabilization, not for just them, by the way, but also for Colombia. Just understand something. The FARC dissidents and the ELN operate with impunity from Venezuelan territory. They control Venezuelan territory. Yeah. And some of that was through deals with individuals aligned with the regime because they made money off of that. But we don't think that's in the long-term interest.
Do they agree?
And what's been expressed to us by leaders of the interim authorities is that they agree. And now we're going to test it.
Dude, Marco Rubio's got to have a photographic memory or something. It's insane, the memory that this dude's got. And by the way, I have no idea why the video looks crystal clear in some clips and it looks atrocious in other ones. It's all coming from C-SPAN, so I don't know why the hell it's like that. All right, so this is the first time in over a decade that we've seen even the glimmer of an opportunity to change conditions. A lot of what will depend on us, but a lot of that will depend on them and also depend on the rest of Venezuelan society.
The fact of the matter is that, yes, we want to see quick progress. As you said, it's unprecedented, okay? All I'm saying to you is, before this was stagnant. Before this, we had spent 14 years, you were involved in some of those efforts, 14 years trying to change the dynamic in Venezuela. 13, 12, 11, 10, it was a big part of my career in the Senate was spent on this. This is the first time in over a decade that we see even the glimmer of an opportunity to change conditions. A lot of that will depend on us, but a lot of that will depend on them. And it also will depend on the rest of Venezuela.
Yeah, man, they have to want to change.
Can we get all these Venezuelans that want to go back to Venezuela and participate in civic and economic life back to Venezuela? That's going to be critical here. We recognize that. So yes, we have to be much further along in 6 months. We expect to be further along. And if we're not, I'll tell you. We'll tell you.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, a lot of Venezuelans who are here do want to go back to Venezuela. They just want to go back to a prosperous Venezuela. Okay, the next one. The only military presence you will see in Venezuela is our Marine Guards at an embassy. That is our goal, that is our expectation, and that is what everything that outlines towards. That said, if an Iranian drone factory pops up and threatens our forces in the region, the president retains the option to eliminate that threat, which makes sense.
I can tell you right now with full certainty, we are not postured to, nor do we intend or expect to have to take any military action in Venezuela at any time. The only military presence you'll see in Venezuela is our Marine Guards at an embassy.
Of course, that's not going to shut them up.
That is our goal, that is our expectation, and that is what everything that outlines towards. But that said, if an Iranian drone factory pops up and threatens our forces in the region, the president retains the option to eliminate that threat. I can tell you right now.
Okay, I kind of would have liked to heard that exchange, but that's okay. So another one, there's no world in which the United States is subsidizing investment in Venezuelan oil. It's very simple. An oil company will go in and say, this is the oil you have. This is how much it's going to cost us investing on the front end to one end, make money, pay back our investment plus a profit at the back end. And then depending on the terms of that investment, they'll make a decision about whether it makes sense for that or not. I mean, that's probably the same way they do business with oil reserves all over the world. I'm sure it's probably the same process.
There's no world in which the United States is subsidizing investment in Venezuelan oil. It's very simple. Oil company will go in and say, okay, this is the oil you have. This is how much it's going to cost us investing on the front end to one end make money, pay back our investment plus a profit at the back end. And then depending on the terms of that investment, they'll make a decision about whether it makes sense for that or not. Right now, what you have in Venezuela is a corrupt and broken oil company run by the government that basically takes this money, doesn't reinvest in it at all, and basically sprinkles it to its people to keep the glue that keeps the regime together. We want it to become a normal oil economy. That's what the ultimate goal is here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. And rolling on to the next one, Secretary Rubio lays it out clearly. We didn't remove an elected official. We removed someone who was not elected, and it was actually an indicted drug trafficker in the United States.
But we didn't remove an elected official. We removed someone who was not elected, and it was actually an indicted drug trafficker in the United States. But we
Well, that was a really short one. And we've got this one. We just want it to be a normal, prosperous country again, not a playground for Iran, Russia, and China in our own hemisphere. We're going to try to help them get there because we think it serves our national interest, and it does.
We just want it to be a normal, prosperous country again, not a playground for Iran, Russia, and China in our own hemisphere. And we're going to try to help them get there because we think it serves our national interest. That will require actions on our part, not money, but ultimately that will require them. This is ultimately going to be on the Venezuelan people and Venezuelan society and Venezuelan leaders to make this happen. We're going to be there to help and assist and create the parameters for it, and we feel like we're making really good progress. If we make as much progress over the next 4 weeks as we've made in the last 3.5 weeks, I'll feel very good about that. We just want to...
All right, well, if he feels good about it, makes sense. They have to be willing to step up, but they also have to be capable of stepping up, and frankly, many of them have not. I mean, Spain is still not doing the 5%. Mark Rutte, yesterday pointed out that without the United States, the countries of Europe would have to spend 10% of their GDP for the next 20 years to be able to make up the whole. So I do think there needs to be a rebalancing, and hopefully we will have cooperation. I'm assuming he's speaking about NATO.
Yeah, but our allies have to be two things. They have to be willing to step up, but they also have to be capable of stepping up. And frankly, many of them have not. I mean, Spain is still not doing the 5%. I mean, there are countries that are still not doing. And in fact, Mark Rutte yesterday pointed out that if without the United States, the countries...
And look, a lot of economies got really damaged during the COVID era, and I'm sure that they're still trying to recover from that because, I'm sure Greece, their economy fully collapsed in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure there's other countries in Europe where they've probably been on shaky economic ground, which COVID probably made much worse. So maybe Spain may not even have that kind of money. But regardless, they committed to it, so they got to pay up.
Europe would have to spend 10% of their GDP for the next 20 years to be able to make up the whole. So I do think there needs to be a rebalancing, and hopefully we'll have cooperation.
Why is she shaking her head?
Yeah, but our allies have to...
I mean, I hope she's shaking her head like, oh my God, that's unbelievable that they're going to have to pay that, rather than her like, oh, that is ridiculous that we would have them pay that much. Okay, at the end of the day, we are dealing with people over there that have spent most of their lives living in a gangster's paradise. We are certainly better off today in Venezuela than we were 4 weeks ago, and I think and hope and expect that we will be better off in the month, 6 months, in 9 months that we would have been had Maduro still been there. I think we already heard this, though. Well, it's 34 seconds. I'll just play it.
I am saying that in 3.5, almost 4 weeks, we are much further along on this project than we thought we would be, given the complexities of it going into it. And I recognize that it won't be easy. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we are dealing with people over there that have spent most of their lives living in a gangster paradise. So it's not going to be like from one day to the next, we're going to have this thing turn around overnight. But I think we're making good and decent progress. It is the best plan, and we are certainly better off today in Venezuela than we were 4 weeks ago. And I think and hope and expect that we'll be better off in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months than we would have been had Maduro still been there.
And on my knees in my night, saying prayers in the street. All right, so this is not a country that's going to require money from the United States to rebuild, to stabilize the transition. We are not spending any money on Venezuela right now, other than whatever it costs to stand up our embassy.
Venezuela is a very wealthy country. This is not a country that's going to require money from the United States to rebuild, to stabilize, to transition. It really isn't. It has the ability to be, and it has been historically, the wealthiest country in the Western in Latin and South America, in many cases. The problem is that the wealth of the country was being stolen. And so part of both the recovery and the transition phase is ensuring that you leave in place a prosperous, free, democratic, allied with the United States and friendly, but also prosperous Venezuela, where the resources of the country are being being utilized responsibly and to the benefit of the people and their economy. So in time, I imagine we will be coming back to you with specific legislation that may be required to assist in that function. But we don't expect that this is going to require any spending on our part. On the contrary, unlike many of the other parts of the world we've gotten involved, Venezuela we're not spending any money in Venezuela right now other than whatever it costs to stand up our embassy.
They got tons of oil. It sounds like playing all these highlights that Marco Rubio is just talking a million miles an hour for like 3 straight hours. But anyway, so we got this one. The lead on U.S. foreign policy is named Donald J. Trump. We build a team, we gather facts, we present options, and then we take them to the president. It is the president who directs the foreign policy of the United States. That's always been the case, by the way, so I assume she might be a Democrat, which she is.
The lead on U.S. foreign policy is named Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States.
I think, Senator Duckworth.
On the individuals you've described, these are very valuable teams. We have if I can answer, because I think it's important.
I'm sure she's probably interrupting him a lot.
I have the distinction, but I think both the benefit of being the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State. As National Security Advisor, my job is to coordinate the interagency function of national security, and that involves foreign policy. So I speak to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in the case of Gaza and now Russia, probably 10 times a day. We have multiple meetings and coordination. All of it is we build a team. We gather facts, we present options, and then we take them to the president. It is the president who directs the foreign policy of the United States. That's always been the case, by the way.
Yeah, it's always been the case, whether you like it or not. And they certainly don't like that because it's President Donald J. Trump. All right, actually, the Board of Peace was chartered and set up by the UN Security Council through a vote at the UN Security Council as to deliberations. So it's an international organism recognized by the Security Council of the United Nations, which is something I think many of you should be supportive of.
Actually, the Board of Peace was chartered and set up by the UN Security Council through a vote of the UN Security Council as to deliberation. So it's an international organism.
She probably didn't even know that.
Recognized by the Security Council of the United Nations.
No, it was only set up by Trump because Trump's trying to be a global dictator.
United Nations, which is something I think many of you should be supportive of. Actually, the Board of
Yeah,
Peace.
you would think so. But yeah, she probably had no idea that the UN was even involved in it because that's not what the mainstream media is telling everybody. All right, so this is from Aaron Rupar. Rosen, yes or no, was Hernandez convicted of trafficking approximately 400 tons of cocaine into the United States? And by the way, that's the individual I believe that Trump pardoned, like when was that? Like several months back. Rubio, I'm not involved in the pardon process. Rosen, I'm just asking. Rubio, I don't do yes or no. I don't play games.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Ranking Member, and thank you, Secretary Rubio, for being here. I'm going to get right into it because I want to build on Senator Van Hollen's line of questioning. President Trump pardoned the former Honduran president after he was convicted of trafficking roughly 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. Cocaine that contributed to the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans year after year. Yet the president and his cabinet authorized a military operation to capture Nicolas Maduro in order to arrest him for virtually the same crime. So, yes or no, because I have a bunch of questions here. To the best of your knowledge, was Hernandez convicted of trafficking approximately 400 tons of cocaine into the United States?
Well, look, that was, in my opinion, that was a straightforward question. Was he convicted of doing that? Yeah, he was. At least I believe he was.
I'm not involved in the pardon process. I can tell you.
No, I'm just asking if he...
Yeah, but I don't do yes or no. I don't play games. This is not a game show.
Do you know he was... Okay, so I'm just going to tell you he
so I can answer your question because I know what you're getting at, but go ahead.
He was convicted. I know.
Don't forget, I was a senator for a long time, lady.
Unfairly treated. I can't give you much insight because I'm not involved in the pardon process.
Would you not concede? Can you not understand how the American people and how
she
the
just
world
wants you to look
clearly
bad.
Going to be frustrated
She's
by
playing
the hypocrisy of this when one man is convicted and pardoned and another man captured? And how
what does this have to do with anything, lady? Take it up with the president. He's the one that pardoned him.
Undermines you.
You know, if you want to start playing games, what about Anthony Fauci? What about Deborah Birx? What about all of those people that Joe Biden pardoned, including preemptive pardons? So he pardoned them for crimes that they still had yet to be convicted of or even charged with.
United States credibility on the world stage.
But the difference is that, again, I can't opine on the specifics of his case because I wasn't involved in the pardon, but he was not a sitting office holder. He was not even the president of Honduras when that decision was made, either to convict him. The difference between him and Nicolas Maduro is he was actively engaged in narco trafficking. It was an ongoing endeavor.
I think it does undermine our credibility, but I'm going to move on to some foreign policy.
Yeah, whatever. Anything to help feed her TDS. Okay, so Daily Caller, and that was Senator Jackie Rosen, by the way, because I got this clip from Daily Caller. This administration is out of control. They are running around like they are kings. See what she has to say after the hearing.
Is out of control. They are running around like they are kings.
Drunk derangement syndrome.
Blowing up ships, boats, everywhere. They go in, they steal people out, steal them in.
You have to clear the hallway. Members of the press.
Sorry, I don't want anyone to fall backwards.
Dude, these people are so evil. You know, she just dials up the drama in front of the news cameras. As soon as the press is there, she gets all hyperbolic and starts like screeching like a lunatic, just like Pocahontas, Senator Warren does. Same thing.
Roughshod through our own country and through others, and Donald Trump and his cruel, tyrannical cabinet are out of control. And Marco Rubio, what is he, jobs of everything and oversight of nothing. And so you're going to find out as we ask
Secretary of State, you dumb
what
fuck.
his responsibility, where his oversight is, where people are consulting him, because it seems like Witkoff and Jared and so many others are running the show. Rubio has many titles, but he has no authority and no backbone.
Oh no, they're actually bringing peace around the world. What are we up to? 8, 9 peace deals now? Oh my God, how dare they? How dare they bring peace in the Middle East? How dare they bring peace to Gaza? They have no right to do that. What the fuck is wrong with this lady? Fucking psycho. Okay, so I got this from Reuters. Rubio testifies to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Venezuela. It's the full video, so I figured I would at least show this. Reuters, it's the first one I came across. I mean, if I had my choice, I'd probably would just dig up the one that's probably over on C-SPAN. But anyway, I'll repost it. It's right here in front of me. So if you want to see the entire hearing, you can view it here on Reuters. Looks like it's 3 hours and 3 minutes in total. I don't know why I said my account wasn't allowed to do that. What, did Reuters block me? Oh, okay, no, it didn't look like they did. That was kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, so it'll be on my profile. There's a direct link to my profile down below in the description if you want to go about it the quick way, the easy way, or you can just go at Reuters, or you can just, I'm sure it's right here on YouTube, the Senate hearing. I'm sure like many different YouTube channels probably hosted it, so I'm sure it'd be really easy to find. So anyway, we're going to move on to the next thing. Congressman Dan Mauser, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner vowing to hunt down ICE agents is the behavior of a psychopath with a badge. Year after year, he fails to prosecute the criminals who continue to plague the city of brotherly love. The left's silence and, in many cases, encouragement of this rhetoric is no different than when they claimed the border was secure while 40,000 people a day were crossing illegally. That is pure hypocrisy. And where is Governor Shapiro? Where are the Democrats? Well, they denounced this inflammatory, irresponsible rhetoric that only encourages hostility. Every responsible Democrat must condemn this behavior. Failure to do so only increases the temperature in an already volatile situation, endangering federal law enforcement and communities alike. So I'm going to pause right here. Let's get to the video. I'm going to play out the video because like there's not really much context at all as to what's happening here. So let's check out the video first. Probably should have started there.
Listen to Philadelphia's District Attorney Larry Krasner vowing to hunt down ICE agents.
This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are. In a country of 350 million, we outnumber them.
No, the popular majority voted for Trump, dumbass.
The way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will.
That is the real communist. That is the real socialist, communist, Marxist scumbag, and he's one of way too many that are in positions of power.
That was an event the district attorney was at, talking about a sweeping package of bills aimed at limiting how ICE
power-hungry psychopaths.
Philadelphia city limits was unveiled.
How much you want to bet he's going to run for an elected position?
That rhetoric, somewhat alarming.
He wants to be governor someday.
Dan User on the House Financial Services and Small Business Committee joins me now. Hunt them down from a DA, Dan? I mean...
Okay, so let me finish up the description because I'm assuming that's Dan Mauser here. So Reading the rest of it, in turn, Senate Democrats using the same reckless political playbook are threatening to shut down the government over federal law enforcement funding. They were willing to shut down the government for 43 days over a healthcare policy that is no longer a priority for them, hurting the American people for nothing. No results, no gains, and now they are trying it again. During my interview on Newsmax, I discussed these topics and how, under the president's leadership, Trump accounts gave Americans real ownership. Newborns are set to receive $1,000 at birth to start building long-term savings. It's a great idea that gives more Americans a real stake in the country's success.
They are hunting them down with these apps. This is just outrageous, in my opinion. What's your reaction?
Hi, Bianca. Well, I'm not in
He's a fucking psychopath.
I'm at the
And he's
Morris
deranged.
Family
He's a
Restaurant.
lunatic.
I'm with my farmer
And
steering
retarded.
group, learning everything I need to learn about the #1 industry in Pennsylvania, and that's agriculture. And very unfortunately, we all actually love Philadelphia. It's the city of brotherly love, as it's known, and we visit there. And very, very unfortunately, we have a psychopath with a badge in Larry
Like I
Krasner.
said.
He doesn't prosecute criminals. This has been going on now for 4 to 5 years. His prosecution
Yeah,
rate
what a
for
shocker.
violent criminals is less than 30%. He doesn't give us the reports anymore.
Yeah. So he's just running roughshod all over the criminal justice system. And by the way, the reason I paused it, if you haven't seen it before, you could look up the homeless camps and the homeless areas. It's a specific neighborhood in particular that's in Philadelphia that it looks like a wasteland, like an apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic dystopia where all of these homeless people are just completely whacked out on fentanyl or a mixture of fentanyl and other drugs, walking around like zombies. I'm sure everybody at this point, I mean, like there's been video clips of that circulating around for years at this point, but Philadelphia is one of the worst places in the country where you could just go down there with your smartphone and just film it. It just looks like a zombie wasteland, like straight out of a video game,
So
man.
it could be less. And I'm talking people that carry illegal guns, people that carjack. He lets them go. He's known as Let Him Go Larry, but I just, hearing language like that.
Yeah, but
or
not if you're
trying to
white.
De-escalate, not escalate.
You ain't gonna let them go.
He's a psychopath with a badge.
Yeah, it's really a good way to put it together, Congressman Muser, because, you know, the words like Nazis and
And
then
that
hunting
is why
them
you have
down,
to
it
pay
just
attention
seems
to
like it will give
politics,
people
ladies and gentlemen,
ideas.
especially your local
And there's
politics.
too many
It's
places
way more
now
important than
that,
the federal level.
are spreading outside of Minnesota.
From an
We
individual
saw
standpoint.
Some arrests in New York as well, anti-ICE. This is happening as DHS funding is also at the center of that potential partial government shutdown. I just want to get your reaction because Senate Democrats say they're not going to vote on a package to fund the government unless it's stripped of funding for DHS. I know a lot of the other appropriation bills have been funded, but this is a partial shutdown. And again, political
think you meant
partisanship
to say
over
ICE.
ICE agents enforcing immigration law. Americans are the ones who will feel the brunt.
Yeah. Bianca, just.
Yeah, and you know, just taking a look at that, if Democrats get back into power, one of the first things they're going to do, among many other crazy-ass psychopathic things, is to completely get rid of ICE. They're going to dissolve ICE. Of course, they're going to nuke the filibuster. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to nuke ICE, Customs and Border Protection, and probably going to get rid of TSA too, because why not? And the list will just go on and on and on. Just no stopping.
A sad positioning, a political positioning.
So I guess buckle up if that happens.
We funded ICE through 2028 in the BBB. We've got about $70 million in this bill. Most of it goes towards training and body cams. There's no sense in using this as leverage for any purpose because it won't.
How much money are they
won't
spending on
deliver
body cams? They can't
on
cost
what
that
they're
much.
Trying to do. They're not going to defund ICE. They've already been funded. ICE is a federal law enforcing agency that has a job to do.
See, that's what I thought too. And I looked that up earlier and it said that it wasn't funded. I thought part of the beautiful bill may have been in part put toward funding Department of Homeland Security, like giving them a boost in funding so they could hire more ICE agents. Maybe it was a different bill. Maybe it wasn't that bill specifically, but I thought sometime last year that they passed funding for ICE for like the next 10 years or something like that. But I mean, apparently that's not 100% the case.
And they're trying to do it. As a matter of fact, they do it pretty effectively everywhere except for Minneapolis. And who knows, with that sort of crazy talk in Philadelphia.
Not to mention, ICE had over 200,000 people applying to be an ICE agent.
Political. But anyway, back to the.
So they got no shortage of people trying to get into serving ICE.
A couple
or
of
serving
months
America
back for
under
43
ICE.
days, and with no gain whatsoever. And by the way, what they said they were shutting it down for, the healthcare bill, well, where's that? We're trying to work
Ridiculous.
on something, and
where is that?
Sort of forgetting.
Yeah, and now you got Democrats that are screaming and crying about how the big insurance CEOs are getting paid tens of millions of dollars a year, and they're making billions of dollars in profits every year. They're screaming and crying about that, but in the same breath, they're screaming at Republicans that they're not passing the Obamacare subsidies, which that money goes directly to those insurance companies in the form of billions of dollars.
About that, right? Exactly.
They're a bunch of effing hypocrites.
They shut down the government here over
It's a real shame.
Absolutely no reasoning, no gain whatsoever.
Wake up, Democrats.
It's only political, not policy. Certainly not for the people.
You know, you mentioned the folks behind you, hardworking Americans and agriculture. President Trump loves Pennsylvania. He carried that state. You have a lot of important businesses there. You've got coal, you've got steel. You're a member of the Small Business Committee. I just want to play a little bit on President Trump, because ahead of the midterms, you know, he's going to be canvassing the country. He's also talked about the Trump accounts. And these are some of his comments today on that, Congressman.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to move past that because we got the gist of that. I just wanted to focus the conversation on what that district attorney, Larry Krasner, freaking psycho dude. I'm really glad I don't live in freaking Philadelphia. Good grief. All right, so, I mean, unless you're a criminal. If you're a career criminal, I guess it'd be the best place to live. Okay, so we got this from Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Minnesota arrests. I am on the ground in Minneapolis today. Federal agents have arrested 16 Minnesota rioters for allegedly assaulting federal law enforcement. People who have been resisting and impeding our federal law enforcement agents. We expect more arrests to come. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nothing will stop President Trump and this Department of Justice from enforcing the law. And she moves on to say, these are the names of those arrested today under 18 U.S.C. Code Section 111, arresting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. And you could read the names right there on the screen. I won't read them all one by one. So yeah, those are the names of those individuals that have been arrested in Minnesota, which it's kind of confusing to me that Mayor Jacob Frey came out and according to President Trump, said that he's not going to help ICE, not going to cooperate, anything like that, because Minneapolis police officers showed up to that hotel where ICE agents had been staying, and they were arresting people. They were getting shit done the other night. And they work underneath the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, so I don't understand, why would they show up that night, and then all of a sudden he says, we're not going to help. I don't really get if there's a miscommunication there or what. So anyways, we got this from Libs of TikTok. Meet Melinda, a healthcare worker at VCU Health. She posted a series of videos encouraging people to inject ICE agents with succinylcholine, no idea how to say that, temporary paralysis drug, I know how to say paralysis, and spray poison on them. She also encourages women to go on dates with agents and drug their food. Any comment, VCU Health? How can you have such a vile person working with patients? How can anyone feel safe at your facilities if you employ such people? Yeah, like what if somebody's an ICE agent and they get injured and they have to be rushed to the hospital, and then you got somebody like her as a nurse? God forbid you've got a tattoo that might say ICE on it, or even probably even worse if you happen to have your uniform on when they rush you into the hospital. I mean, it's a terrifying thought. I mean, it really is. And I know a lot of people were freaked out about that during the COVID era too. That if you're like if you happen to be rushed into the hospital, you get into a car accident or something, and you happen to be wearing like a Trump shirt or something, is some psychopathic, Trump derangement syndrome doctor going to end up seeing you, and God knows what would happen in that instance. So anyway, let's hear what she has to say.
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever.
Succinylcholine, I was close.
That will probably be a deterrent. Be safe.
Lunatic.
Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote, anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water.
So hold on, let me just double check. I don't mean to pause it halfway through, but I kind of do. I'm just curious to know where is VCU Health? I'm just curious to know which state. I guess it ultimately doesn't matter, but whatever state she's in, they could revoke her license to be a nurse. I would certainly hope that they do, because otherwise she could just let a few months drop off the calendar and then just try to reapply for another position somewhere else. I'm sure they tend to at least attempt to do that, but she should never work around patients ever again after this. I mean, this is like just an absolute psycho, man.
Water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands. Are they single?
Yeah, and anybody who's highly allergic to poison ivy or poison oak, I mean, that would essentially, in my opinion, be attempted murder.
Where these ICE guys are going have a chance to do something, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ICE agent. Bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks. Get them sick. Nobody's gonna die. Just enough to incapacitate them, get them off the street for the next day. Highly, easily deniable. You could get sick too. Won't eat there again. I'm just saying. Let's get them where they eat. Somebody's not going to be supporting these guys. Where's the hotel where they eat? Who makes that breakfast? Let's find them. Let's make their lives fucking miserable. I know we're already trying to keep them awake all night. That's good. Anything you can do to make the living conditions bad. Talk to the people who work at the places where they are. Come up with some ideas. Dead fish. Somewhere in the room hidden. Just
Somebody's seen dirty work too much.
stay toxic.
Stay toxic. Good grief, man. So anyway, thanks to Libs of TikTok for putting this medical lunatic on blast with her freaking laxatives and poison ivy water guns and absolute deranged lunatic. Men, I didn't notice a ring. I think she might have did have a ring on her finger, but regardless, stay far away from this one. And a lot of ladies wonder why men walked away from the relationship market altogether. I mean, not to say that she represents all women out there or anything like that, but you see a lot of these crazies out there on social media. Good grief, man, for crying out loud. But we do have an update from Libs of TikTok. The nurse at VCU Health who called the poison and drug ICE agents has been fired following our report. Update. Following an investigation, the individual involved in the social media videos is no longer employed by VCU Health. In addition, VCU Health has fulfilled its reporting requirements under Virginia state law. So it was Virginia. And I don't know if Virginia is going to yank her license. Probably not. Maybe, maybe not. I would certainly hope that they will, because she absolutely has no business being around any patients at all. Good grief. Okay, moving on to ICE of TikTok. A TikToker caught a few moments when a car attempted to hit protesters in Minneapolis. A black SUV blocked the car and kept people from being injured. And we'll take a look at this. All right, let's do that again. Okay, all right, I see what they were doing. A black SUV right here. Yikes, man. Okay. I mean, maybe, maybe not. Still kind of crazy to see. All right, so Senator Eric Schmidt, deportations are nothing new. We've been doing this for years under many different administrations. But all of a sudden, Democrats have decided they don't think we, as a sovereign nation, have the right to enforce our own borders. We can and must continue mass deportations.
Democrat presidents have deported millions of people.
Yeah, Obama was the deporter in chief.
So you have to ask yourself, why is this happening in Minneapolis? And the reason it's happening in Minneapolis is those politicians have decided that they don't believe a sovereign country can tell people or decide who can come here and when they have to leave.
No, I think the Democratic Party is in absolute free fall. They're in absolute chaos. They're fractured beyond belief, and they're losing their chokehold on power. And now they're just in full-on gaslighting mode, and they're just essentially throwing spaghetti at the wall at this point. I mean, look, we've got a bunch of illegal immigrants here numbering in the millions. How about we just fight as hard as we possibly can to just keep them here just because they're just simple human bodies that we can use for the census so we can gain more congressional seats. Just every single little seat matters.
That is a big deal for a country. So I think it's very important that deportations continue. And they can be done in a
just a little
way. That's typically how that happens. But when you have politicians telling people that these guys are the Gestapo, that the secret police, Republicans are Nazis, I just don't think that's appropriate. So the way you de-escalate the situation, you say is,
psycho
look,
behavior.
We have differences of opinion maybe on this, but step away and let law enforcement do their jobs.
Yep, bunch of deranged lunatics, bunch of communists, psychopaths. That's what they are these days. And I've said it before, it's truly sad how far the Democrats have strayed from reality. Why they insist on ruling everything with an iron fist and taking our country down a path to socialism, dystopia, is beyond me, other than their blind lust for power. I mean, today, they're blaming Trump for the high cost of living. I mean, what else is new? But you don't have to look further than blue states, blue cities, where it's much more expensive to live. They have a long list of individual taxes that you have to pay: a county tax, city tax, municipal tax, state tax, gas tax, soda tax, high sales taxes. And they even want to impose a mileage tax that you must pay regarding the number of miles that you drive every year. And, how does that saying go? Democrats, they would tax every breath you take if they could figure out how. And so anyway, Rapid Response 47, an illegal alien in Minneapolis killed an innocent mother and severely injured two others after back-to-back drunk driving crashes in which he did not have a valid driver's license nor insurance. Great. He was arrested for vehicular homicide. The day after the crash, ICE placed a detainer on the illegal alien, but he was released because the sanctuary city of Minneapolis refused to honor it. Months later, when he was finally charged, he was predictably nowhere to be found. When he finally was arrested on the outstanding warrant, officials released him again, despite ICE placing another detainer on him that very same day. Fortunately, ICE tracked this criminal illegal alien down and deported him back to his home country where he belongs. All ICE was asking was that officials notify them when he was released so they could go arrest him in the safety of the jail, rather than expend significant resources to locate and arrest him in public. Which, by the way, those resources, that's funded by taxpayers, including the people who live in these cities. And something that jeopardizes both the officer's safety and the safety of the public. Instead, Minneapolis officials did everything in their power to keep the criminal illegal alien roaming the streets of their city. This is the dangerous policy that Governor Tim Walz, Mayor Jacob Frey, and A.G. Ellison, Attorney General, and other Democrats support. And here's an image. Eyewitness News charges drunken driver caused back-to-back crashes in North Minneapolis, killing somebody. A fatal DUI suspect in U.S. illegally released from Hennepin County Jail again. And driver was drunk when he caused the crash in Minneapolis that killed other motorists, police say. And that's the individual that they're talking about. Killed somebody with his vehicle and was let right back onto the streets again. Okay, so we got this from Diplomatic Security Service. 8 years, multiple states, one international S-trafficking network dismantled. Antonin Pannin and his co-conspirators have had their final sentencing. 46 months in prison, $217,000 restitution, all assets forfeited. Probably not nearly long enough. DSS and our federal partners deliver justice for victims. Is this copyright? Probably is. All right, whatever. The music, we get it. I don't think there's going to be any sound associated with it. Nah, it's just music playing. So obviously they're executing, I don't know, arrest warrant, search warrant, what have you. Got him arrested. Off to jail you go. For what was it, 46 months, 48 months? Something like that. Got towing the vehicles away. $217,000 in restitution. All assets have been forfeited. Diplomatic Security Service making America safer. And from the Department of Justice, the Justice Department joins lawsuit against racial discrimination in admissions at UCLA's medical school. Quote, as the Supreme Court has made clear, admission into our nation's educational institutions cannot be based on discriminatory racial policies, said A.G. Pam Bondi. Today's intervention is the Department of Justice's latest effort to hold our universities accountable for unlawful policy, especially in the state of California. I thought that Democrats were all about, anti-racism and that they were anything but racist. But nope, doesn't turn out to be the case now, does it? As the Supreme Court has made clear, admission into our nation's educational institutions cannot be based on discriminatory racial policies. Today's intervention is the Department of Justice's latest effort to hold our universities accountable for unlawful policy, especially in the state of California. And where did that link go? Here's the link. No, I'm not a robot. And it says, today, the Justice Department Civil Rights Division sought intervention in a lawsuit against the David Geffen School of Medicine at the University of California at Los Angeles over the school's continued use of race in its admissions policies and practices. The underlying lawsuit against UCLA was brought by several groups, including Students for Fair Admissions. In 2023, SFFA won a historic victory against Harvard and the University of North Carolina, in which the Supreme Court determined that U.S. universities were no longer allowed to use race as a factor in admissions decisions. I mean, dude, this has to go without saying, man. These people are just insane. SFFA and now the United States alleged in this lawsuit that UCLA has continued to use race in its admissions decisions after the Supreme Court's decision in SFFA versus Harvard. Quote, as the Supreme Court has made clear, admission into our nation's educational institutions cannot be based on discriminatory racial policies, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Today's intervention is the Department of Justice's latest efforts to hold our universities accountable for unlawful policy, especially in California. Even after the Supreme Court banned race balancing, the Geffen School kept discriminating by using illegal DEI preferences in admissions, said Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. As the Supreme Court stated more than 80 years ago, a free people founded on the doctrine of equality regard distinctions between citizens solely because of their ancestry as inherently odious. The Civil Rights Division will not tolerate such conduct and welcomes the court's role in ensuring justice. The law is clear. Discrimination on the basis of race is illegal and immoral, said First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Esseley for the Central District of California. As a state where so many of its leaders pride themselves on being on the right side of history, California can and must do better. The lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court of the Central District of California notes that the Geffen School gathers data on the race of its applicants and uses racial preferences to illegally balance its admissions classes by race, such that they will look like America. The United States complaint notes that based on admissions data obtained from the Geffen School, large disparities exist between the academic preparation of minority applicants and non-minority applicants. This invidious racism not only violates the U.S. Constitution, but stigmatizes minority applicants as less qualified and causes the medical school to admit applicants who were substantially less qualified to become medical doctors. This case is brought by the Educational Opportunities section of the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Insane, but no surprise. Like what I've said several times, the Democrats, they've always been the party of racism. They want to put race, they want to view everything through a lens of racism because that's who they are. That's what they are. Unfortunately, very unfortunately. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel, homicides in Los Angeles hit a record low in 2025, the lowest level in decades. Letting good cops be cops and giving them support saves American lives all over the country. And that's homicides in Los Angeles hitting a record low in 2025. That's homicides per 100,000 people, going all the way back to 1960. Looks like they barely just dropped below the mark as it was in 1960. So there you have it. It's the lowest level that it's been in 60 years, 65 years, 66 years. Very long time. So good job, Los Angeles. And we'll move on to Dems in disarray in Iowa from Senate Republicans. As far-left favorite Zach Walz gains support, Schumer is pulling strings for Josh Turek, his flailing recruit. The DSCC has warned consultants against working with Walz and Sage in the race and even threatened to cut vendors out of contracts. And that's from Town Hall inside the Democrats' crowded, messy race to the left in Iowa Senate primary. Despite all the chaos, Walz is the current frontrunner in the primary with 24.7% of the vote. Turek has 17.6% and Sage at just 7%. So they're running up for, I'm assuming, for the midterms. That would be my guess. And NWS Weather Prediction Center from just 4 hours ago, further increases in confidence for an impactful winter storm are noted across the Carolinas, with greater uncertainty still farther up the coast, which will include heavy snow, strong winds, and coastal impacts, and also the forecast uncertainty. This potent storm system will have an unusually far south track. Some uncertainty remains with its depth and exact southward extent on Saturday. Then uncertainty exists regarding the storm's track after passing Cape Hatteras Saturday night, which will dictate impacts for the Northeast. Please see the latest forecast at weather.gov. And it looks like right now the chance of at least moderate snowfall impacts is sitting at, like, what is that, 80%, maybe 90? I think it's like in the 80% range. So yeah, man, it looks like North Carolina, they're about to get slammed with another winter storm, because I believe that they were affected by the last winter storm, weren't they? I'm pretty sure they were. I mean, they're right next to Tennessee, and Tennessee was one of the hardest hit. All right, so this is from Rep. Vern Buchanan. After 20 years serving Southwest Florida, I have decided it's time to pass the torch and begin a new chapter. Serving you has been the honor of my lifetime, and I'm deeply grateful for the trust you placed in me. And he left a link to his website, buchanan.house.gov. And Buchanan announces his retirement. Legacy includes 51 bills and initiatives signed into law by 4 presidents, rated one of the most effective in Congress by nonpartisan group, longest-serving Southwest Florida Republican. I didn't know that. Serving the people of Southwest Florida has been the honor of my lifetime. Actually, did he include that? Oh, no. Okay, so I'll read it. So every achievement worth doing began with listening to my constituents and fighting for their priorities. I came to Congress to solve problems, to fight for working families, and to help ensure this country remains a place where opportunity is available to everyone willing to work for it. After 20 years of service, I believe it's the right time to pass the torch and begin a new chapter in my life. So I don't know if he announced a potential replacement, someone who's going to be running for his seat. I'm not sure. They probably already mentioned somebody. I haven't come across it, but I'm sure that that's already been announced. All right, from the U.S. Army, we've worn different uniforms over 250 years, but why we fight and why we stand together does not change.
The uniforms may have changed, and the tools have transformed, but the heart remains the same. Why we fight and why we stand together does not change.
Your mission starts now.
All right, there you go. Really, really short clip. Short, brief, to the point from the U.S. Army about 12 hours ago. And from the White House, hopefully Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. Here, let me just go ahead and read the whole thing from President Trump's Truth Social. A massive armada is heading to Iran. It is moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. It is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln than that sent to Venezuela. Like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. One that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence. As I told Iran once before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make that happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Uh-oh. Moving military assets right off the coast of Iran. I mean, even though it sounds like all the protesting kind of quieted down, because it sounds like the regime, was able to suppress everybody in Iran. But anyway, it sounds like Trump might have something up his sleeve. U.S. Southern Command, a USMC UH-1Y Venom helicopter at the 22nd MEU prepares for takeoff from San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock USS Fort Lauderdale, LPD-28, while underway in the Caribbean Sea, January 12th of 2026. U.S. military forces deployed in the Southcom area of responsibility are supporting Operation Southern Spear as directed by the Department of War and the President's priority to protect the homeland. This is a very cool picture. I mean, green happens to be my favorite color, so that stands out. All those stars, man. It's very cool. Right after sunset, too. And from the Board of Peace. The Board of Peace welcomes Argentina as a founding member of our growing international organization. Argentina has joined the Board of Peace. We got another one. El Salvador joined the Board of Peace. And we got another one. Paraguay has also joined the Board of Peace. And this from Eric Doherty. Breaking: Secretary Scott Bessent just obliterated Europe for financing the Russian war. Quote, Europeans are very disappointing. India brought sanctioned Russian oil. Guess who bought the refined product? Europe. they're funding the war against themselves. Yeah, you almost
I
can't
find
make
the
that up.
Europeans very disappointing because the Europeans are on the front line of the Ukraine-Russia war. The Europeans, India started buying sanctioned Russian oil, and guess who was buying the refined products? The Europeans. So the Europeans have been funding
Hilarious.
the war against themselves, and like something that you couldn't have made up. The U.S. sanctioned or put a 25% tariff on India for buying the Russian oil. The Europeans were unwilling to join us, and it turns out because they wanted to do this trade deal. So every time you hear a European talk about the importance of the Ukrainian people, remember that they put trade ahead of the Ukrainian people.
Yeah,
trade,
they did.
European trade, more important than ending the war in Ukraine.
They need energy, though, I guess, is part of their issue.
Yeah, they could get it from us.
At a price, they want cheap energy. Like,
Right.
We could have cheaper energy, too, if we were willing to buy sanctioned Russian oil.
What about...
Well, that's true. And, you know, that maybe Venezuela could be part of the whole future negotiations with regard to Europe. But Europe, they've been buying oil. Well, I think it's natural gas. Isn't natural gas or liquid natural gas like one of the biggest resources that they purchase? I'm pretty sure they purchase it directly from Russia, like Germany and the UK, which is absolutely crazy because Russia takes that money that Europe has given them for energy and they just funnel it directly into the war against Ukraine. And at the same time, Europe is funneling billions of dollars toward the Ukrainians to fight the Russians. More of the same, man. Some things just never change. From the U.S. Department of Labor, mentoring is a core component of every registered apprenticeship program. Gain on-the-job instruction from experienced mentors and kick your future into high gear with an apprenticeship. You can get started at apprenticeship.gov. So if you got any young adults in the family or anybody who's about to be a young adult, that's one thing that they could be looking into is apprenticeship.gov, wherever that open up. Oh, yeah, it'll open up over there. Yeah, so, I mean, that'd be something to look into. And they got Apprenticeships USA. You can view the fact sheet, career seeker, employer, educator. So they got different options. Over 800,000 apprentices annually across the nation. So there's quite a lot. Average starting salary, man, look at that, $80,000. That is insanely good money. At least from my perspective, that is really good money. All right. And rolling on to the next. Oh, wait, nope, got to go back and then roll on to the next. From the U.S. Department of Labor, our Opinion Letter program is a key compliance assistance resource that can help workers and employers navigate workplace situations with confidence. And let me see, these opinion letters. Need help with an issue at your workplace? Request an opinion letter at dol.gov. And the U.S. Department of Labor is committed to providing workers and businesses with the necessary tools to complying with the labor laws we enforce. As part of these efforts, we're increasing compliance assistance resources and tools like opinion letters to help the public more fully understand their rights and duties under federal law. If you have a general question about federal labor laws, you can call the number at 866-487-2365. And the purpose of the opinion letter, they are official written opinions on how a law we enforce applies to a specific workplace situation, providing practical answers to help the public understand their rights and responsibilities. They can be requested by anyone, including workers, employers, employment associations, lawyers, human resource professionals, unions, and industry leaders. Generally, these letters concern matters where it is unclear how to apply existing regulations or guidance. And they've got some tips on writing a request. You can requesting an opinion letter can be quick and easy. The tips can help you present your question in a way that highlights for us why your request should be addressed. Reference any specific laws, regulations, or other guidance you think is relevant. Include an accurate and complete description of the facts, such as your job duties, work schedules, or pay structure. Confirm that the request is not related to an existing matter that requires the interpretation of federal law. Note that we do not issue letters for any or for use in any investigation or litigation matter that existed before submitting your request. And don't include sensitive, personal, or confidential business information. Responses may be published publicly on our website, and include your phone number in case we need to follow up. So, and you can choose the topic below to submit your request if you want. But anyway, that's on Department of Labor, their website, which will be linked below if you just so happen to need that for any reason. Maybe keep that in your back pocket. All right, so moving on. Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. If you have access to classified or sensitive material at the workplace, you may be targeted by foreign intelligence entities via personal contact, which may not appear obvious. And you can learn more at dcsa.mil. That's going to be a PDF. Okay. Let me see if I can zoom in. It's more of a pamphlet than anything. But let's see. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of it, but personal contact is the vector for many intelligence methods of operation that constitutes suspicious contact. Report any suspected instance of actual or attempted elicitation. And it says any individual's efforts, regardless of nationality, to obtain illegal or unauthorized access to sensitive or classified information or to compromise a cleared employee, or contacts with known or suspected foreign IOs. Anyway, but I guess you get the idea. But yeah, if you happen to work in any workplace where, whether if it's government classified or if it's just highly sensitive material in general, I mean, there's a lot of workplaces, a lot of positions where you have to work with very sensitive, like personal identifying information, and you never know. You could get a text message from someone who you might think might be like a coworker or something. It's pretty crazy how they can spearfish. I think that's the term that they use in order to try to get your credentials or get information out of you where they can try to access that sensitive material at the workplace. And from U.S. Commerce Department, U.S. steel production is back. For the first time since 1999, American steel production has surpassed Japan's. Further proof that President Trump's trade policy is working. And this is on Just the News. U.S. steel production surpasses Japan for the first time since 1999 amid the tariffs. U.S. steel production, U.S. crude steel output increased to 3.1% in 2025 to 82 million tons, according to the World Steel Association, putting the country in third place globally behind China and India. And I bet once upon a time during the 20th century, I bet we had a massive lead over everybody else in the world with U.S. steel. At least I would venture to take a guess that we were by far in the lead. The increased production comes as Trump placed 50% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum last year. Steel prices have also increased as a result of the tariffs. Hot-rolled steel coils used in manufacturing and construction reached $983 a ton as of January 12th, the highest level since last May, and nearly double the global export price, according to pricing tool steelbenchmarker.com. Since last January, prices are up about 30%. Amid the higher prices, U.S. domestic steel shipments increased 5% year on year in November, according to data from the American Iron and Steel Institute. So obviously, a 50% tariff brings a pretty large incentive to start manufacturing steel inside the United States. The demand for steel comes from data centers and power generation facilities, which has surged as tech companies race to build the infrastructure needed to support artificial intelligence. And also, speaking of which, have you seen the gold and the silver prices? Gold has surged above $5,000 an ounce. And I think even more shocking is the price of silver, man. Last I checked, today, silver reached just shy of $120 an ounce. It was like at 6:30 this evening. It was just a couple hours as of this recording. It reached $119 and change. Silver is skyrocketing, and that's why, because of the AI infrastructure that they're building out, among other things. You know, the solar panels, they use silver, and EVs and other electronic components. It's in extremely high demand, and the price for silver right now is certainly showing. According to the Commerce Department, private sector spending on data center construction more than doubled in the 2 years through last January. Meanwhile, Japan's Nippon Steel completed its $14.1 billion acquisition of U.S. Steel last June, which sounds like a hell of a bargain, with plans to pour billions more into American operations to mass produce high-grade steel tailored for data centers and other advanced applications. And it looks like that's all we got for that article. And that'll be linked below. From the U.S. Department of Energy, President Trump and Secretary Wright are focused on common sense. Hydrocarbons are 83% of global primary energy consumption, while wind, solar, and batteries are only 2.6%. America needs more affordable, reliable, secure energy sources that power the nation 24/7, even during winter storms. Nuclear energy, man, I'm telling you. I'm all
China
about that.
will
Nuclear.
bring on...
Holy shit. I am very sorry. Man, dude, my volume is all over the place tonight.
Somewhere
Crying out
between
loud.
50 and 70 gigawatts of coal this year. So to call China green, I mean, look, wind, solar, and batteries, $10 trillion in, 2.6% of global primary energy.
Ain't that crazy? They spent $10 trillion on this green energy nonsense, and it only produces less than 3%. 3.
Hydrocarbons were 84% of primary energy in 1973, and they're about 83%.
83% today.
So even the term
Now, look, to be fair, we've had quite a population boom in the years following
energy transition, I think, is just not consistent with the facts. we've seen a transition of where the money goes. We do spend more money, over $1 trillion a year globally, on, quote unquote, they call them zero carbon, lower carbon
neutral
sources. So huge amount of money is spent there, but it hasn't meaningfully changed the global energy system, except for the price of that energy.
It's going way up if they want to do that.
Energy is produced.
Yeah, it only gets more and more expensive. It'd be extremely expensive. If you have a city that is only running off of wind and solar with battery backup, and that's all that they're using to power that city, your electricity is going to go up 4 or 5 times. It's going to be very expensive. And Minnesota is about to find out the hard way because they've got a policy to go carbon neutral. I think it's by like 2035 or something like that. And the local government, the state government, has already told people living in Minnesota that their electric bills are going to have to keep going up and up year after year after year to have to pay for all of that infrastructure. So it's a mess. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I honestly don't have any major problem with renewable energy as long as it's implemented organically. When you get the government trying to spearhead the whole effort and taking trillions of our tax dollars to just dump it into this system, that is not the way to go about it. No, it just has to be organically from the ground up. Private companies, like companies that try to sell solar for people's houses and stuff like that, even though a lot of that is a scam in and of itself. However, I don't have any major problem with wind and solar as long as it's used correctly. To power an entire city, we're not anywhere near that level of technology, in my opinion, especially when you have to do battery redundancy. We're not even anywhere near that capability, at least not my opinion. All right, so EIA, U.S. natural gas production totaled 3.4 quadrillion British thermal units, or BTUs, in October of 2025. That's just in 1 month. 3.4 quadrillion BTUs, which is about 38% of U.S. total primary energy production. And you can get more historical energy stats in our updated monthly energy review over at EIA.gov. And here, let me just take a look at their profile. Independent Statistics and Analysis from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So that's what it stands for. Energy Information Administration. Publication of recent and historical U.S. energy statistics. This publication includes total energy production, consumption, stocks and trade, energy prices, overviews of petroleum and natural gas, coal, electricity, nuclear, renewables, carbon dioxide emissions, and data unit conversions values. And it looks like they update it every month. So they just have this whole list where you could just do energy overview. They've got the PDFs and they got the spreadsheets, all that good stuff. They got graphs, all kinds of data and statistics. A whole treasure trove of data if you're all about that. And you can have a look at that down below in the description. There will be a link to it. And got this from the Department of Energy. DOE is working to strengthen America's nuclear fuel supply chain by asking states to express interest in nuclear lifestyle innovation campuses. This new effort will modernize our nation's full nuclear cycle and support President Trump's vision to revitalize our nuclear base. Do they have any follow-up on that? Yes, they do, from CNBC.com. The Department of Energy announces new efforts to boost nuclear fuel supply chain. The Department of Energy on Wednesday announced an initiative to build out the nation's nuclear fuel supply chain. The DOE is asking states to express interest in hosting nuclear life cycle innovation campuses, which would support activities across the nuclear fuel life cycle. Given the surge in interest for nuclear power, driven in part by the enormous power needs of hyperscalers, the department said one of these campuses could attract $50 billion in capital investment from the private sector. Let's go, man. And I will have that linked below. I'm going over on my time. I knew this was going to be a long episode, so I have to try to work on getting to the end of it a little bit quickly. So this is from the NRO. JUMPSEAT, the United States' first-generation highly elliptical orbit, or HEO, signals collection satellite has recently been declassified. Learn more about its history right here at nro.gov, the National Reconnaissance Office. And the director of the National Reconnaissance Office recently declassified the existence of JUMPSEAT, which is the United States' first-generation highly elliptical orbit signals collection satellite. And it was launched from 1971 to 1987 under mission number 7701 to 7708. JUMPSEAT was the product of the United States Air Force's program at the NRO, developed under a program called Project EarPop. JUMPSEAT offered the U.S. a way of collecting intelligence during unprecedented geopolitical change and Cold War tensions that lasted until the early 1990s. The historical significance of jump seat cannot be understated, said Dr. James Outzen, NRO director at the Center for the Study of National Reconnaissance. Its orbit provided the U.S. a new vantage point for the collection of unique and critical signals intelligence from space. Following the end of World War II, threats of globally spreading communism and nuclear weapons proliferation fueled Americans' anxiety of the unknown. Across the world, the U.S. suspected that more American adversaries were building out extensive top-line defense arsenals, including long-range missiles and atomic weapons. The success of the Soviet Union's Sputnik 1 demonstrated an object could be placed in orbit, which could pose a weapons threat from space. Thankfully, the newly formed NRO was poised to offer the U.S. some critical answers. And the NRO's existing electronic surveillance satellites, including GRAB and POPPY, already collected intelligence from their positions in low Earth orbit. The NRO and USAF, collaborating as a part of NRO's Program A, were tasked with developing a foundational HEO signals collection satellite to bolster the U.S. government's space intelligence portfolio, named JumpSeat. The new satellite would be capable of operating in an HEO or Molniya orbit, or Molniya orbit. The NRO's USAF members worked quickly to develop the pioneering satellite's technology. JumpSeat's core mission focus was to monitor adversarial offensive and defensive weapon system development. From its further orbital position, it aimed to collect data that might offer unique insight into existing and emerging threats. Together, the NRO and the USAF launched the first JumpSeat mission in 1971 from Vandenberg Air Force Base, now Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Once in orbit, JumpSeat successfully collected electronic emissions and signals, communication intelligence, and foreign instrumentation intelligence, and valuable information that was downlinked to ground processing facilities within the U.S. From there, the data was provided to the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, and the National Security Elements. Over the decades, JumpSeat satellites continued to prove their worth to signals intelligence, finally operating in transponder mode until they were taken out of service in 2006. The NRO and its mission partners, including national-level decision-makers and national command authorities, collaborated in its decommissioning. The JumpSeat declassification recognizes the program's long and distinguished life in support of our national security, as well as JumpSeat's status as the progenitor of other HEO satellite programs. The declassification memorandum on JumpSeat provides more details on the historic program. So you know what? I guess I'll give this a look. Okay, so this is an actual PDF, like an actual document from the National Reconnaissance Office, Memorandum for Director of National Intelligence under Secretary of War for Intelligence and Security. And this was on December 4th of last year, 2025. So there you have it. I guess that would be the declassification letter. Very cool. And to finish up the episode, from NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, very grateful to OPM Director SKUPOR Scott Cooper on this important collaboration. We need to bring on the best and brightest at NASA from around the nation to achieve our world-changing mission. This program gives us the opportunity to bring top technologists into public service, mentor our pipeline of interns and early career engineers, and ensure NASA continues to lead through innovation and execution for the nation and for all mankind. I can't emphasize this enough. 2026 is a new year at NASA, and with the support and leadership of President Trump and the National Space Policy, we will deliver. And from U.S. Tech Force, the Tech Force is excited to announce NASA is officially joining as a partner agency, opening the door for participants to work directly on NASA-related missions and technology priorities. You can apply at techforce.gov, and we'll take a look.
Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Cooper. I'm the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, and I have the real privilege...
Crap. My apologies. I hit the wrong button. Here, let's try this again. All right.
Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Cooper. I'm the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, and I have the real privilege of being in Houston today at the Johnson Space Center. You can see behind me, actually, a replica of the International Space Station. And remember, just literally less than 24 hours ago, NASA successfully brought back the residents of the space station, and another great example of the fantastic work that NASA is doing. But I'm also here to spend time with the NASA team and talk about ways in which NASA and OPM can team together to make sure that we've got the right people in the right roles and the right talent to help drive all the important objectives forward for NASA. And I'm very excited to announce today that NASA has joined as a partner in the U.S. Tech Force. For those of you who may not recall, Tech Force is a new program that we've rolled out to bring 1,000 engineers into government and help every single agency find ways to modernize their activities and make sure that the U.S. government continues to be the most tech-forward and advanced organization that we've ever seen before. There's going to be more news on the NASA partnership coming soon, but I figured since I was here in Houston that I'd give you some breaking news and look forward to all of you who are interested in joining Tech Force and working with our partners here at NASA.
All right. Well, there you go. Sounds very interesting. Again, there will be a link to that in the description below, and that'll do it for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give the video a quick like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be dropping a new show tomorrow evening as I do the Swamp Monday through Friday, covering everyone in the swamp, the politicians, the bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And also I post daily on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.